Nice little jam. Thanks, Doug. I did unmute everybody, right?
Still shows Andrew's muted.
Andrew's still muted?
Was. Oh, he's good now.
There. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our May 27th episode of Dueling Aces. Well, Doug, you good? You're muted. Unmute all. Everybody should be unmuted.
Can you hear me?
You have to speak.
Quit doing your mime tricks.
I think you went into Pokemon mode, Mr. Mime.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
Is your headset plugged in?
Did you put fuel in the car?
Is there coffee in the mug?
The only person muted right now at the moment is Andrew.
Right, he muted himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew mutes himself.
Doug, you should be all set. Check your connection again. Yeah, the only person I even show muted right now. Doug, go back out and come back in. That's kind of weird. All right, joining us as always, still Andrew from the East Coast, Suds from, well, you know where. Akers from the basement bowels, Zolt from his kick-ass setup. And we have a special guest as well, Aaron from Socks and Sneakers, starting June 6th on Redline Radio LLC with their new sports show from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays, which we will be looking forward to.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. You know, glad to see another Redline person on.
Well, thanks for inviting me, fellas.
Glad to have you. Mr. Burrich, if you please.
Well, you know, I heard that someone had 6 days to do some research, and I guess he couldn't find any felons or in jail or the bottom of the ocean in soccer. So F you, Suds. He's doing his mime trick too.
I was going to say, what the heck? Oh, put him back in the waiting room. See if that'll help him.
See what happens when you don't do your research? You get kicked out.
Now? No?
Oh,
he's
Now we got Doug.
You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
There I am.
There we go.
I kept getting a message. The host is not allowing anybody to unmute themselves, and that's why I had to go out and come back in.
Oh, that was really weird.
It's acting up today, I guess.
Yeah, go figure.
So that's you, Suds.
So no problem. I'll take the fuck you for the soccer. First of all, you gotta stay away from those people. You end up scoring the wrong goal at the wrong time. You end up getting yourself killed in your own country. I don't want to talk about them. Boy, that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
That's just Mexico.
And Italy. And China.
And Brazil.
And Brazil. And I bet you wouldn't do too. You screw up in England, excuse me, not New England. In England, you probably won't fare well either.
No, you'll just have your head cut off.
Exactly.
Off with your head.
All right, we've got our goats part 2 plus a
And for your information, Colleen and Andrew, I'm using the built-in speaker, built-in microphone of the computer. I do not have a microphone itself. But there's nothing to unplug and plug back in.
I was just giving you a hard time in my experience from calling the technical IT department. The first option is always to unplug, wait 30 seconds, and plug back in. So Dave knows exactly what I'm talking about.
That was actually my field for 25 years.
That's why I'm laughing.
I think Colleen was jumping on there too. Turn it off and turn it back on.
And my wife does it too.
That's what you're supposed to do. I thought that was a general rule on how to fix everything.
First of all,
It's the only way I can fix anything. Unplug, turn it back on.
Oh yeah, yep.
Then call somebody else.
Yep.
Okay.
I have no idea where the hell you guys are at. So.
All right, for those some of you joining, our topics today are their GOATs, our IndyCar drivers, NASCAR drivers, tag team, and golf is what we're going to start off with.
And then we've also got the Dynasty. Plus, during our break, there will be a posted trivia question. Those who guess it correctly and put the correct answer in the comments field, which we will turn around and timestamp and check between Redline Radio LLC and our watch page, as well as any of the other watch parties we've got attached, or I'm sorry, the shares attached. We will turn around and that person will win a Dueling Aces t-shirt. And this will be our first that we get to give away. So it's not too hard, but then again, we're also not going to make it that easy on you either. So good luck for everybody going after that as well tonight. Thank you. Like I said, please turn around and share and like our videos as well as we get on with this show. And first up, why don't we take off with golf? So, Shrods, you are our primary main East Coaster over there. We'll turn around and let you go first.
All right. So this one I was a little torn. I've been playing golf since I was 8 years old. My grandpa got me into it. Absolutely, probably my second favorite sport. Absolutely love it. And I think when you look at tops for this bracket, it's always really potentially two or three guys that really come to mind. And for me, this player has 82 PGA Tour wins, tied for most with Sam Snead. He has 15 majors, which is second overall, and he's still going. He's the only player to ever win 4 consecutive of the same major in golf history. He has the lowest average score in the history of golf. And in the year 2000, for the entire year, he averaged 67.79, which is the lowest score in the history of golf. And that's Mr. Tiger Woods. Still going strong. I think, you look at the Masters last year, and if he can play at the top of his game, I think he's still up there with the tops in the sport right now. So, I mean, that 18 for Mr. Nicklaus is not too far away. And I think looking at Woods, for me, if you were to tell me I could have one player in one round, he would be the guy I'd go to. Put on that red Nike shirt on a Sunday, and the guy was just lights out.
Doesn't he also hold the record for most hookers?
I would maybe John Daly could give him a run for his money.
Daly, yeah.
He doesn't even. He comes in second place to that too. Okay, him and Jack. Wow. He's your
I
goat.
was just at the Waffle
Second place in championships and hookers.
And cigarettes on the course too.
Oh yeah.
The only stat I would add to that is 12-time most wins on tour. That's pretty darn impressive. He's one of the few where, when you're talking about the GOAT, we're actually watching it now. We're watching the play now. That doesn't happen very often.
I would say that, and he's also he's been voted the 10 times as Player of the Year on the PGA Tour, and that's the most ever as well. So, I mean, just the numbers speak for themselves.
Well, the stats that really stood out to me on Tiger, because I went with you on Tiger too, is the 41 European trophies compared to Nicklaus's 9 and the 18-time world golf champ. I mean, you can't hold a candle to that. Nicklaus nowhere near, and in some cases 0 on that.
Oh yeah.
I had to go with Woods just for that alone. And like you said, he's active now. He's only 8 behind Nicholas to tie, 9 to win. He could probably hit that, and 3 majors away from tying. Within the realm, sure.
Yep.
I could absolutely see it.
The other thing too that really with Woods is, I mean, you think about leadership and how he's led Team USA in a few major, a few of those major golf tournaments, whether it's the Ryder Cup or I can't remember what the other one is off the top of my head, but
President's Cup.
Yeah, thank you. And then, I mean, just the way he's played in those tournaments. I mean, the guy is just an absolute monster. And I mean, yeah, he's getting a little older, but I mean, you look at him at the beginning of his career and the way he hit his driver. I mean,
my whole question about Tiger is, he did have a few years that were pretty down years, starting with the baseball bat to the car, and just roll downhill for about the next 8 years after that. I wonder what he could have done if he was still on top of his game during those 8 years.
Oh, he was on top of his game. It was called The Waitress. Oh, damn. Too
That's
soon?
what she said.
Too soon?
No.
That's right, then.
And back injuries didn't help either, though. He had a lot of those issues.
Oh, his neck and his back. Yeah, I mean, he's constantly.
That's too many waitresses.
Way too many.
Or are they too big of waitresses? One of the two.
Now with his back and neck, were those because of his swing or just because of the shit he got into with his old lady and everything?
No, that was because of his swing. He swings the club so quick. I mean, that was why earlier in his career, there were so many years he led the tour in driving distance. I mean, you get up there and hit, 360, 370, 380. Like, I remember the first Masters he ever won, he was out driving everyone by like 50 yards. I mean, it was absolutely insane. And I'm trying to remember what year it was. I think it was 2000 or 2001 where he won the major by the Masters by 12 strokes. It was the guy that was in second. His score would have won the last 6 years at the Masters, and Woods beat him by 12 strokes. I mean, that's absolutely insane.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Wasn't he also one of 5 men to achieve the Grand Slam of golf also?
Yep. Yep. He has the Grand Slam, and then he was the only player ever to win the same tournament, the same major 4 consecutive times as well.
That's phenomenal numbers from a guy who had injuries and missed how many years of not being able to play the way he could.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen what he
Another weird stat you guys look at and everybody doesn't think about it is the par stats. He's never once through a whole season he's golfed ever been over par.
Oh, that's he impressive. Has. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Lowest
was -10, under 10.
Yeah, I can only do that on video games.
That was 2010. And he did not win any rounds that year, but he went in 12 tournaments. I think that was his back and his eye that year.
Well, Sudbury has a different point of view as far as this goes.
First of all, I am the only person on this screen currently who has the ability to hit the ball backwards twice.
I witnessed that.
You witnessed it.
I witnessed it.
It was damn impressive.
Was that during
I don't know if it's behind me. It's scary.
Was that during the wedding reception with all that wine you were drinking?
No, I avoid. Listen, I can't drink and play golf. I can't play golf in the first place. I sure the hell shouldn't drink.
Exactly. Exactly. For the love of God. Yeah, no.
Hey, you might play better that way.
George was standing 5 to 10 feet behind me. I damn near hit him.
Yes. I bowl better when I'm half in the bag, so I agree with that.
So the thing about Tiger and Jack Nicholson is the difference wise is the equipment and what Jack could have done with the same equipment that Tiger has. How far would he have driven the ball? I mean, back then, I've seen their gear. There's no way that Tiger is going to hit, 400-yard drives with what Jack had to use back when he started. So I just applied the fact that, you know, he's got 3 more championships than Tiger right now. And with that, champions speak. Champions speak. And sometimes you look at the competition. Who really does Tiger have to fight, you know, to win?
Phil, that's about it.
That's it.
That's it.
And Phil is half the time, you know, in Tiger's prime, wasn't doing anything.
No, that's an interesting point, because I would love to see Tiger healthy going against the guys now, because that would be his probably stiffest competition if he was.
I believe you're right on that one.
If he was ever healthy.
Well, Tiger, I mean, look at the Masters last year. He won it. Like,
well, yeah, but I mean, if you look if you're going
all
with
the other tournaments,
a lot of players from last year weren't really there all there either. You know, I mean, Jordan Spieth up and down. Like, he started off in his first year, great. Second year, everybody's like, "Are you a one and done?" And then where's he at this year? You know.
Well, but I think that speaks to why Tiger's the greatest. When you think about longevity, and I mean, Nicholas was the other guy. I mean, when you look at 1-2, for me, it's always been those two. The thing,
and I was with Suds on that one about because I was saying the same thing. I mean, every sport changes. Obviously, we all know that. I mean, I guess basketball is still going to be the same sphere that they're bouncing off the ground. They just change.
It's not though. It's the basketball's not. The basketballs are different. The rims are different. The rim gets a different bounce. You got glass versus wood. You got the floors are different. You want to go play basketball at Madison Square Garden in the 70s? You don't want any part of that court.
Well, I was talking about how the equipment changed more than like what they used. So like the clubs, for an example, like we were just talking about, they went from the wood with the clay faces, then they went to the steel plates, and then now we're with the steel solid heads. And then the degrees on each club is so different than what it was back in the day.
Right.
I mean, if you want a different degree, you actually shaved your club to do it.
Yeah,
you know, now you have everything designed for you just because of that. And the golf ball itself has poorly changed. I mean, if Nicholson
like
still has
baseball.
the clubs that he used back in the day that are still mint condition, and the golf ball, put it in Tiger's hands and see what he does, I would love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know the equipment in 2 sports mean everything: NASCAR, Indy, and golf. I mean, the right equipment means the difference between, you know, 250 miles an hour racing a car versus, you know, driving a golf ball 250 yards to 350.
Right, and I had Nicholas as well. I mean,
really? I thought you would have had Palmer.
No,
I drink that stuff. Arnold Palmer.
Plus, he's competed in 164 major tourneys, 73 PGA victories. I mean, Sneeds and Woods have 82, and the most mind-boggling thing is the guy still even has 8 senior major titles. I mean, he's even doing it on the senior circuit. So,
well, I don't think Tiger is a senior yet, is he?
Not yet.
No,
I'm saying let's
Tiger's
by his
our age.
hairline. Yeah, he's pretty close.
Yeah, if he's a senior, can you imagine that roster?
Oh,
if you're going by hairline, then LeBron's good for the senior circuit too. Then, all right.
Oh yeah, he is. Him and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, same hairdo.
Roger Murdoch.
All right, Mr. Burrich, your guy.
So Andrew talked about Tiger revolutionizing, you know, golf with his swing, and Akers talked about Jack revolutionizing golf with his game. Well, you can apply that same theory to this guy. This guy stood only about 5'8", played from 1930 to 1971, had a couple years off because of a war, and he had to take a year off because he almost died in a head-on collision with a Greyhound bus outside Phoenix, Arizona. This guy is number 5, number 4 with 69 pro titles, 9 majors. He is only one of 5 players to win all 4 of the Grand Slams. In 1948, he won 10 times. In 1953, he played only 6 tournaments. He won 5 of them. The only time he ever played the British Open, he won it. This guy, 9 majors. He's the only one I know of has a plaque in the middle of an 18th fairway, which is at Marion golf course, which
Good
is
call.
very, very, very famous golf course for a lot of opens, major opens. Hitting a 1-iron in the 18th fairway, and he needed it to tie to go to a playoff. So I am going with Ben Hogan as my greatest of all time. A lot of if you look at it, he's quit golfing in 1971, and he's still 4th all time in total amount of titles on the PGA Tour. So a lot of guys, Jack, Sam Snead played around the same time as him, but Jack and Tiger and Arnold and Phil and all them were chasing Ben Hogan. So my greatest in golf is Ben Hogan.
Did you see how you named all those guys? And when you come down to Tiger, you could name one. I mean, that says level competition. That gentleman played against great competition at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that means the difference. I mean, you can go with with him as well, but I think that kind of drives the nail into why Tiger's not, because the competition level during that time was much higher than it is for Tiger.
Ben Hogan had Sam Snead. You had Jack had Arnold. In the 90s, you had Greg Norman and Ernie Els and Freddie Couples and all those guys battling each other. And then all of a sudden, Tiger comes. You got to admit, Tiger came around right at the right time.
He had no competition.
Right.
I don't know if I'd say he had no competition. I think the problem was Tiger was so much better than everyone else that he made the competition look average. I mean, some of the guys he golfs against are still, when you look at their overall network of work, I mean, yeah, Phil Mickelson, I mean, he finally came around. I think he's got his majors now. He's done really well. Some of the younger guys that, maybe they haven't put together, back-to-back great careers. But part of the reason why, when you look at 2000 to probably 2010, 2015, why there's really not, another player, and why Phil comes up in the conversation is because Tiger just absolutely dominated.
There was more than one player besides Phil. I mean, we had Jim Furyk and everybody else. But the thing is that Tiger was so on a tear through 96 to 2004. I mean, the only way you had a chance to beat Tiger in round 4 was just to be 2 strokes behind him going into round 4. I mean, they didn't say Tiger on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday were good. No, they said Sunday Tiger is the guy you have to beat. And it was, if you came down neck to neck with Tiger on Sunday, it was the 17th and 18th hole was the only way you could beat him. It was, if you would have beat him on a 17th, 18th hole, it was the only way you're going to beat him. I mean, you were going to say it.
I think my favorite golfer of all time is Fred Couples. Guy had one of the smoothest swings you have ever seen in golf. If Freddie didn't get screwed over by his ex-wife in a divorce, because he got screwed the hell out of, but his back, same thing with Tiger. His back started to go out very, very early in his career. If he would have stayed healthy, I think he would have gave a Tiger a good run there in the late 90s and early 2000s.
See, I thought Tiger was starting to fall apart, and the time his LASIK surgery came in, his back problems are coming in. I was at the point where I'm like, I want him to retire, because I hate to see a player that's on top so much just start to fall, and then everybody's like, well, he doesn't have it anymore. And it was really his health and his conditions and everything that was making him do it, and he was stretching himself out so much. And he took that year off, and obviously you can tell it did something. When he came back, he won a freaking Masters and got his coat. I mean,
well, it was a couple of years ago, George. You maybe remember this on this very show when we had the call-in. We were both saying a few years ago that Tiger was done, and now all of a sudden he's making a comeback.
Yeah,
that's
very
true.
I hate to see players like that. I really do. I mean, it's just like the time we were watching McGuire start doing everything and stuff like that. I mean, it sucks.
I also think the reason why Tiger didn't win won as many titles in the last couple of years, not only his health, I think it was up here in his head too. Because remember, he was changing coaches every other week, changing putters, changing clubs. He thought
I was gonna say caddies too. Yeah,
it just got in his head. It got in his head so much that he just couldn't focus on golf. So I think that's another part of him not winning as many titles in the last 6-7 years. You know.
Clint says no Arnold Palmer. Man has a drink named after him. Yeah, so does John Daly, technically in certain bars, depending on what you're going to.
Tiger's got a club head.
A quick shout out to Dave Nickel. What's up, buddy? Colleen, Mary, glad to see you two back. Looks like they had so much fun last week. They've come back for more, Andrew. It's got to be the beard. It's got to be the beard.
It's got to be the beard.
It's got to be the beard.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It must be the beard. Ryan's got it.
Ryan, why don't you go ahead and lead off with we'll move on to tag team wrestling.
Tag team wrestling.
So these guys, when they first started their careers, were not in tag teams at all. They were more singles than anything else. And then when they decided to move on, they teamed up, won 6 WCW tag teams. 1997, they were the tag team of the year. These guys were on top of their game in the early 90s. And then in the mid 90s to late 90s, they revolutionized wrestling with the storylines that brought us such great wrestling in the middle to late 90s between not only WCW but WWF. These guys were the ones that really kickstarted the best storyline ever in wrestling. So I am going with none other than
better crank it up a little louder.
NWO, the Outsiders, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. By the way, George got me this, just to let you know.
Is that real spray paint?
No, it's like
nice.
Margarine. So yeah, those guys, even though they did not really were tag teams, you know, the bad guy and Big Sexy, they weren't tag team guys in WWF when they first started. I mean, especially Scott Hall, you know, Razor Ramon. He was why to this day why he never won a WWF championship, heavyweight championship. I don't know, but that's another day.
He was higher than the kite 95% of the time.
Nah, he was drunk.
He won the IC a couple of times.
Oh, he was
he was. Now IC. They always say the IC title goes to the best one, not getting a heavyweight championship push. But once those guys got together, they were the front of NWO the first month and a half, 2 months on WCW. No one knew. Hogan was basically the last one to know because they first asked him about it, and he said, "Well, I don't know." And then of course, you hear stories that Sting was supposed to be it and this and that. But if you look at it, I think yesterday or today or 2 days ago was the first day that Scott Hall made his appearance on WCW Nitro, and he and Scott and Kevin Nash tagged up and just ran with that story. And to me, they were the best tag team in the history.
Not to take anything away from that, but it certainly helps when one of them is a booker.
One of them is a what?
Booking the matches.
Oh, not when they first got there. The first year or two they did.
You're right.
At the end, Nash was
right.
Yeah. Nash was at the end, and then but by that time Scott Hall was off the deep end and everything. But I'm talking about the first 2 years of that storyline. They just could not be stopped, and they were by far to me the best tag team. But in retrospect, that's what killed WCW too. Was everybody and their grandmother was in the NWO.
Akers, you're next.
Oh man, here we go again. My tag team was it was pretty hard. I had watching these guys grow up, obviously back in the 90s, and it was kind of hard debate. I'll get going here. These two teams actually was kind of funny because they've always fought each other back in '99, and they were teammates at one time also. But I had to go with Edge and Christian in the Brood over my Hardy Boys, and I just Edge himself was just phenomenal coming off the turnbuckles, and his spear was probably one of the strongest spears. But I mean, if we're gonna go crazy tag team, yeah, Hardy Boys. Jeff's got that all day. But yeah, I'd have to go with Christian and Edge. They were just phenomenal going through the 90s and the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, and I know
got to put you on the spot.
So
got to put you on the spot, Mike. Give us a 5-second pose.
A what?
5-second pose. Come on.
Oh, you want my Gangrel pose? Oh, I wish I had my fangs. I can't spit blood in here either. That was, you know what? That was one of the weirdest intros too, coming in and off the ramp. Was they came in off the escalator, pushing them up through the stage, and just Gangrel himself was just weird. I mean, that was one guy I never did understand watching wrestling.
I agree.
I never did.
Even now,
we all know that really
like,
wasn't pig blood.
Yeah.
They kept saying that was pig's blood. He kept drinking and spitting out. We all know that really wasn't pig's blood.
Yeah, I mean, both.
I can only imagine the cleaning bill after that.
Yeah, I mean, Edge and Christian were in.
What's this corn syrup and blue coloring?
7-time WWE Tag Team Champs. They were both excellent on the mic. Both went on to championships singly. Yeah, they were incredible together.
Get the tables.
I was going to say that out of those three tag teams, I had Edge and Christian first, the Dudley Boys second, and I never liked Jeff and Matt Hardy. I don't know why. I just never got into Jeff and Matt Hardy.
It was Matt. It was all Matt.
It was Matt and Jeff. Yeah,
it was Matt. You just
everybody didn't like Matt.
Jeff was the one who was the high flyer, and that's what everybody was looking for. He was the entertainment. Matt was kind of more the bruiser, which was pretty much more the average wrestler. So that's why Matt really, when Jeff and Matt split up, that's why Jeff was kind of given more title opportunities, and Matt was stuck on SmackDown and just kind of, oh, I'm sorry, he's got more as another tag team partner. He picked up another tag team partner and was still monikered as a tag team wrestler, which was a problem.
My favorite thing about Edge is when he got those Oakleys that went behind his head instead of over to the side. Remember? When he came out, then I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
I mean, the table, ladders, and chairs, I think has to be the most insane besides Hell in a Cell, but going after tag teams, table, ladders, and chairs. What?
And since
the Steiner brothers didn't have nothing in that competition going on there, but when Edge and Jeff are at the top of the ladders and Christian is just hanging on the belt.
No, that's Jeff hanging on the belt.
Jeff, and then Edge.
Jeff hanging on the belt.
And then Matt was hanging on the other belt. And I'm like, what the hell goes through your mind that you're both going to get speared coming out of the air?
Yeah.
No. It was Edge spearing Jeff. Jeff was the one hanging onto the belt. And speaking of the other guys, Doug, I backed you up on this one. Why don't we bring in the Dudley boys? Go ahead, Doug.
Well, the one thing that really stood out to me is that no matter where these guys went, they won, and that's all they did. They beat the hell out of you doing it. They won 23 times as as champions, not necessarily WWE, but it was 8 ECW. Sorry, can't talk. 10 WWE/WWF, 3 TNA, 2 New Japan. I mean, these guys did it all. They were the face of ECW for how long? Anything that Edge and Christian may have come up with when it comes to tables, ladders, and chairs, these guys were already doing it back in the 90s in ECW in the little stadiums. They were the innovators of that type of tag team champions. And I got to give it to the Dudleys here.
Yeah, 25-time tag team champs in over 6 different organizations and across the world, not just stuck in North America, is beyond impressive. I mean, wherever you go, that they automatically went, hang around a little bit, you're gonna get a title shot here, no problem. Watch this. They'll bump off their jobbers, just turn around and give it to them, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
I just didn't like how they played Bubba's role in the first 5 years with the Dudleys.
Oh yeah, that was ridiculous. But
yeah,
when it comes to wrestling itself, those guys were innovative. And I think there was one match in particular. There was like 4 or 5 tables stacked on top of each other, and one of them goes, power bombs.
Bubba was in the middle of that with
with Jeff going off the ladder.
One of the Steiner brothers was in that match too.
No, the Steiners were never involved.
Steiners were way in WCW after that.
They were in WCW, yeah.
But if you notice though, when they tried to split up the Dudleys to try to make them singles, it didn't work. They had to be together the whole time.
Yeah, bombed off bad.
Now, hey, Clinton on air said the Dudley Boys been in 5-7 years, possibly to New Day. No, New Day, no way.
Who?
New Day's got a long way to go yet.
Yeah, they have a very long way to go.
Always been a new day every time in wrestling comes around.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like the New Day. I mean, I've watched them a couple of matches, and no, I don't know. Maybe they're
they're
storyline you got for them all the time.
The thing is there are a couple of guys literally who got pieced together, and it does work. The gelling does work. They work well off of each other. The promos are really good. Their in-ring storytelling is absolutely phenomenal. And for 3 guys, I mean, let alone 2 guys, but to put a 3rd guy into the mix, it's almost like adding Spike Dudley in with the Dudley Boys. And they rolled off. Really. Oh, yeah. Spike added into the storytelling. When Bubba even said it himself on Busted Open, having Spike in, it helped with a lot of storytelling in certain matches, and it worked perfectly.
Well,
and that's coming from the man himself.
And Spike was one of the original Dudley Boys in ECW, wasn't he?
Correct.
Yeah. There was like 8 of them in ECW.
That also goes along into that Aces and Eights thing with TNA.
Yeah.
Aaron, why don't we turn around and let you launch off with you've got some backup between Shrods and Zolt with you on this one, but go ahead.
I went with the Road Warrior / Legion of Doom. 20-time tag team champions. 1-time All Japan NWA International Tag Champs, 1-time AWA World Tag Champs, 1-time World Japan Tag Champs, 3-time Georgia Championship Wrestling National Tag Champs, 1-time IWS International World Champs, 3-time iGeneration Tag Champs, 1-time IPW Tag Champs, 3-time NWA. And this one was impressive to me. It was a 3-time NWA World 6-Man Tag Champ, 2-time with Dusty Rhodes. And the other one was with Tenru. They were also 1-time Mid-Atlantic NWA World Tag Champs, 2-time WWF Tag Champs, 1-time WWE Tag Champs, and 1-time UWA World Tag Champs. For the problems with alcohol and different things with they were just phenomenal to watch. And when Paul Ellering came in, I think he helped them build them up a little bit more too. I think the Road Warriors, I followed them since day one. I just like the way they were. They just a bully looking type of tag team that would just come in and just rough people up.
Yeah, that was a tough choice for me too, between Road Warriors and Dudleys, and I had to go Dudleys, even though I'm like, doing one of these numbers for like a day. Yeah. Just with Road Warriors alone.
You'd be surprised at what my other tag team was that I was thinking of was the Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
That
one was kind of one of my other ones that I was thinking of, and Ole and Arn Anderson, I don't know, something with them. They were tough.
That was number 2 for me.
That was my second tag team. They were just a bunch of people come in, beat you down, bloody you up, and leave you laying in the ring. That was my other tag team that I was contemplating between both, but I went with the Road Warrior / Legion of Doom.
Hey, we like the old schools getting mentioned in there. That's pretty cool. Nice.
I'm 40 and I love the old school wrestling. I think back then there was a lot of different things going on. So
I'm surprised you didn't go with the Four Horsemen.
Yeah. My third tag team was Buff Bagwell and Scott Norton when they were in NWO. They were called
Vicious and Delicious.
On that note,
Vicious
I'll
and
be right
Delicious. He's vicious and I'm delicious.
Yeah.
That is the greatest line I've ever heard. Thank you, Zolt. You're the
Hey,
only
you
one
got
I
it.
know. Every time I say that, they're like, "Who the hell is?" I'm like, "Yes."
bad
The only
thing is Buff looks bad now. They just
I saw that. Yeah.
yeah, he looks bad.
Zolt, you just went right up past George on my my sheet.
It's only a matter of time.
Bagwell couldn't stay off the drugs. They had to
I was
kick
gonna
him
say
out.
that's Bagwell all day.
They had to kick Bagwell
Hey,
out.
he had a
He
good
couldn't
gig
stay
though,
off.
being a gigolo.
Yeah, well, he couldn't stay off the drugs, so they had to get rid of him. They had a drug policy, and they had so many arrests at that time that they had to get him clean, or he couldn't wrestle.
Yeah,
When
I
did
mean,
the
they
steroid
lost Big
drug
Papa Pump. They lost him to charges. They lost Luger. They lost.
I never was a fan of Luger. Luger sucked.
Wait,
But they lost.
we didn't
they
lose
lost-
Luger to drugs. We lost Luger because he kept getting beat by it. Right?
No, well, in a roundabout way, you lost Miss Liz the drugs because of Luger. So
Yeah.
He went to jail for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
All right, Suds, your last but not least.
So I kind of went a little old school, and I also brought it. I like the NWO, but really they kind of copied these guys. That would be the Hart Foundation. They dominated the WWE like that NWO did. They had Bret Hart, Jimmy Neidhart, Anvil, Jimmy Hart, Owen Hart, Davey Boy Smith, Brian Pillman, D.H. Smith, Tyson Kidd, Natalia, Teddy Hart, Ted DiBiase Jr. have all been part of the Hart Foundation at some point in time, and they've dominated the WWE/WWF, and they made men wear pink, which kind of impressive thing since the 80s that didn't happen.
Touche.
So, they had one of the best storylines. They all were always relevant. When you watch WWF back in the day, people turned on to see the tag teams. They turned on to see the Killer Bees, the Dudleys, Hart Foundation. The Hart Foundation were in the mix on everything, on every show. Somewhere, somehow, they were involved.
I agree with that line. I agree with that line about back then everybody watched for tag teams.
Yeah.
Now they
singles.
just try to throw people together to try to form tag teams, and Revival is one of my favorite tag teams now, and WWF never even pushed them, and now they're gone to AEW, and they're more tag team friendly than WWF or WWE, whatever you want to freaking call them.
And I don't think I don't think the same thing happens in the WWF without the Hart Foundations back then, because I think they solidified the tag teams. They had such a great storyline. With the WCW, they had Midnight Express, the Orient Express. Everybody was Express this, Express that, but the real domination was over there at the WWF side with the Hart Foundation. The world revolved around them. And I mean, and then if you look at just the Hart Foundation itself, you got the Dungeon of Pain in Canada, the Hart Basement. They put out so many great wrestlers, and all wrap around the same family. It's the Harts. The Harts are the heart and soul of the WWE, WWF, and they've dominated the entire organization for 30, 40 years.
Johnston says he's dropping his 3 cents. He says, what about the Brothers of Destruction? Doug, I'll let you take that curveball. What's up, Kerry? Thanks for jumping in.
I like them, but I don't consider them the greatest of all time. They were around. They were innovators. They were around for a while, and they were innovators. But it's the titles. It's a little bit of the storylines. I mean, I like the individual wrestlers themselves. I didn't like really the tag team formation with them.
Alrighty.
I'm surprised no one picked.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Seth.
Shouldn't we restrict also? We're talking is supposed to be the greatest of all time.
Right.
To someone to teams that actually dominate
And
for
yeah.
years and years and years and decades versus somebody put together for 1 or 2 years and then they separate and become great. They're great wrestlers. They really were. But we're talking Legion of Doom that were together for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
The Heart Foundation for 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the brothers were not even a thought in my mind. They were together for what, 5 years, 6 years total?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, and like I said, I was just bringing it up. Ryan, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, close distant third for mine were the natural disasters, typhoon and earthquake.
Oh, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
Oh Lord! I'm gonna throw this up to Zolt. We're gonna move right into NASCAR, please. There were 6 of us who went along with this guy. Zolt, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
Well, I mean, he's called the king for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
35-year career, 200 wins, 5-time Daytona 500 winner. Only driver to ever win 27 races in one season. Holds the record for number of races, pole positions, top 5 finishes, top 10 finishes, wins, and championships. That's Richard Petty.
Yeah.
Now you said 27 wins in 1 year.
Yes.
Yep. 1967.
How many races was that?
I would have to look it up.
And also the only
Just
motorsport.
to make sure he said Petty, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And also the only motorsports representative to win the Presidential Medal of Freedom, by the way. That was one of the bonuses that I had on there. And that was given to him in 92 when George W. was in, and he was the first sports motor athlete to be honored with that award, which is also quite impressive.
Dave, I'm not sure if you threw out this stat too, but he's the only person to ever win 10 consecutive races back to back.
Throw that out.
Oh, wow.
Yep. As I say, I also have a laundry list here. It's like, damn,
I was
this
gonna say,
has got a lot.
So 1967, there were 49 races.
49?
Yes, and he won 27.
Ooh.
And he won 27 out of the 49 with 10 in a row.
Damn.
That's sick. And he had, and because we brought it up last week, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, there you go, Mike.
Rookie of the Year, 1959. And he, hey, we're gonna throw. I'm making sure we're just covering that too.
Now, if he was a Rookie of the Year, he would have not have been the GOAT.
Plus, he's a 4-time Hall of Famer. He's 4 different Hall of Fames motorsport.
Yeah.
He has most wins at Daytona also.
I mean,
Correct.
Petty was, given the name the King for a reason. And they did it to where they upgraded their engine towards not like today, where everybody has to have almost the same engine, same gasoline. No. Back in the day, they had different fuel. They did things with their engines and a lot of other people tried to compete with. And the King, that was one of the things they did. A lot of people tried to compete with the King on what he had built with that Pontiac and everything. Yeah, he is one of the best races ever of all time.
Who's got the feedback going?
His studs look like he's lost.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who's making all that noise.
Who's got a woman in the background?
That would be me.
Doug's like, that's And with that,
he may not be back.
Hey, Mike, you want to go?
Now, I'm gonna state this driver here. I'm not disregarding what you guys said. Yes, Petty was on my list. Petty is one of the best drivers. But the reason why I kind of selected him is because the way they did all the car changes, and his team was basically really hard to beat. just because of that. And it was just
Come on, Mark Martin whooped his ass.
It was amazing to watch him drive. Coming at the age of 21, he did not win a race. He won his first race at the age of 22. Everybody loved him on the track because everybody said, "There went that flamer. There goes that rainbow."
No, I hated that dude.
Gordon was one of the hardest drivers to face against, and he didn't have his name blown up. I mean, driving a black car, but yeah, it was like, "Oh, you want to beat my car? Here's the layout of the engine. There you go." Hendricks did it all the time. Hendricks wrote it out. He says, "Well, you think I'm cheating? Here, there you go. Here's his engine layout." He was one of the best drivers there was. Between him and Dale, oh man, was that a battle back in the day.
Bullshit.
You do what it used to do all the time.
That car.
Round 2.
That car whooped
Hold it
his
still
ass
though, George.
all the time. That car whooped his ass all the time. Mark Martin got his ass.
And just to make sure that you know this, that he's got 93 wins, 325 top 5 finishes, 477 top 10 finishes, 81 poles out of 805 races, and his career earnings is $153,703,667.
And 69 cents.
Yeah.
I mean, he has put his money into he's put his money back into the car development, and he's also found one of the best drivers there is today, driving still today, and that's Jimmy Johnson. He's one of the founders of Jimmy Johnson. So I mean, that's what he's reason. I'm not saying he is the greatest of all time, but I'm saying as in the era that he's in, yes, he was the greatest of all time in that era.
They're lovers.
Ryan, please save me.
All right, so I went. There was 2 guys that I was looking at. The other guy was Bill Elliott. I think he was probably one of the best drivers in the 80s and early 90s.
Early 90s.
But looking at this guy had 49 wins, 308 top 10s, 15 poles. He was a 3 Cup winner, Winston Cup winner as a driver, 2 Cup as an owner, and if you look, the last Cup he won was as the owner of his own car. He was a badass on the track, and I always like to gravitate to badasses like Dennis Rodman and all them. And the reason why I picked him as the greatest is because he also won an Indy Cup championship back in '97, I believe, 95 or '97 before he went to NASCAR. Plus, he's double dipped, with the Indy 500 and doing the Coca-Cola 600, in the same day. I went with Smoke Tony Stewart.
God,
I always liked Tony Stewart.
Take that Tide Pod and throw him in the washer.
No, I always liked Tony Stewart. That guy can drive anything, dirt bike, those dune buggies or whatever whatever they had, and he would win. I think he's one of the most professional, top drivers. To race anything, he'll tell you he'll race anything that you got. He'll do it. So I picked Tony Stewart.
He was another driver I liked watching sometimes, but he was also one of the drivers that used to aggravate me with that 20 car and that Tide.
No, it was Home Depot.
Yeah.
Tide was who the hell was Tide? That was Tide was 32. That was Ricky Craven.
Ricky Rudd, I think at one time too.
Ricky Rudd or Ricky Craven, yeah, one of them. The thing with Tony Stewart was he was arrogant. He was arrogant, but he backed it up.
Yeah.
He could talk all this shit you want. These guys talk all their shit now, but they can't back it up. Tony Stewart backed it up all the time.
And he was another driver who was really good at a mean portion of a 5 to 10 year span.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kept trying to stretch it out, and he was just declining because he couldn't put more money into the car to make it stronger. And once again, down the bottom of the list. I mean, like I said, we were going through again. Yes, he was a great driver, and it was which is another one that was going downhill at the end of his last 5 years. And him getting Danica Patrick, signing him on that team, was another way to try to put money, and he couldn't put it in his car, so he threw everything he could put in her car.
Yeah.
And
she crashed it.
And Kevin Harvick, too.
No, see, this is one thing I'll say about this is Danica was a good driver, but there were a lot of guys out there who were sexist, and when she was in front of them, they would purposely wreck her. When she was in the top 5 at one time, I can't remember who wrecked her, but you can tell that was damn near on purpose. Just went right up into that bumper and rigged her right up in the wall and took her out. And I give her props. I give her props for keeping her cool through the whole time she's driven, because there were, I mean, the biggest crybaby in NASCAR still today is that damn M&M's car, Kyle Busch. And I mean, if I was a driver for Hendricks or Tony Stewart, that's the first car I'm taking out. 5 years, the first car I'm taking out. I can't stand him. He cries too much. When someone just barely grazes him, he's throwing his hands in the air. Rubbin's racing. If you don't touch the wall, if you ain't taking somebody's paint with you into the winner's circle, you ain't doing nothing right. I'm just saying, every race, every Tony Stewart's taking somebody's car part into the track with them. Gordon has done it. Earnhardt is doing it. Petty has done it. If your paint ain't on somebody else's car, you're doing something wrong.
Well, and if you look at him as the owner, he actually helped out Kevin Harvick's career too,
yes,
by getting him on his team, and Harvick is just going through the roof now.
Kyle Busch is a crybaby who needs a diaper change. Thank you, Clint. I will say it today, and I'll say it again. Can Kyle Busch drive? Yes. When people leave him alone, he's probably one of the best drivers. Even I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago when they were doing the simulation drives, he was complaining about his simulation car. Are you kidding me? It's a simulation car. Everybody has the same setups. And he drives a Toyota, which is allowed back in the NASCAR. And he
you're right there, George.
Why does that sound like military intelligence? An oxymoron.
He has an O-ring.
Jumbo shrimp.
And
yeah.
Usually in one of the races, he was actually found that his O-ring was missing on the shifter, which allows him to have 3 miles an hour faster, which is ironically, if you really think about it, 3 miles an hour is not really fast, but in NASCAR, it is faster. If you can go 201 miles an hour faster, or 3 miles an hour faster than somebody else, I mean, it makes a lot difference, especially getting off the turn 4 in Daytona and then gunning to that finish line. It makes a difference.
You said O-ring.
Get typical on car parts here. Where's Dave at?
Shrods, we're going to kick back over to you for IndyCar. There are 4 of us who are riding that train for
No
IndyCar.
one said DEI? Really?
Moving right along to IndyCar. Go ahead, Shrods.
So I will be the first one to admit that I know a lot about soccer. I'll take that one. I know really nothing about IndyCar racing except for watching the Indy 500. My grandpa actually was back in World War II. He was fortunate enough to actually work in the pits at Indy way back in the 60s, 50s and 60s. But I really was never, being from Detroit, obviously, all my uncles, my grandparents, they all worked in the automotive industry, but really never got into cars and not really a big Indy fan. So when I was doing my research, really everything I looked at, this was the guy. Like, when you look at pretty much every record out there for IndyCar racing, this guy either was number one or really far up there, and that was AJ Foyt. I think the only other person, I won't say his name because I'm sure probably maybe somebody else has him, but why I think he, just besides the leading in wins and all those other things, when you think about IndyCar racing, you think about the Indianapolis 500, and AJ Foyt was just dominant at the Indianapolis 500. I'm sure other people have probably much better stats on him as far as like number of races and all that stuff. But again, like I said, I'm not a huge IndyCar fan. But I mean, every list I looked at, this was the number one guy from an IndyCar perspective.
I got your back on that. He is the only driver, because he ran simultaneously NASCAR and IndyCar at the same time, but is the only driver to win the Indy 500, which he did 4 times, the Daytona 500, the 24 hours of Daytona, the 24 hours of Le Mans, and the 12 hours of Sebring, and as a 5-time Hall of Famer. That helps kick up the damn category for this guy.
Yeah. 24 hours at Daytona is pretty cool to watch. I was down there one time to watch it. It's awesome to watch that at nighttime, especially because they're doing the road course at Daytona. So
the thing that jumped out to me too with the Indianapolis 500, like a stack of records that I did pull, was all the records he has at the Indianapolis 500. I mean, he's tied for 4 career wins there, but he also has the most consecutive and career starts at 35. I mean, racing Indianapolis 500 35 times is crazy. He's led the most races at Indy, which is 13. He has the most times led overall, most competitive laps and miles during a career. I mean, the thing's just his records are just, think about, decades. And we talked about it earlier in some of the other sports. Like when you think about the greatest, think about longevity, the guy was around forever. I mean, decades and decades worth of racing, and he just stacked up, races and wins, and he was good. I mean, you don't stay around for that long if you're not good. So
yeah, 1967 to 1992 he raced and only missed 11 Indy 500s, did not finish. 11 out of 25 years. That's pretty good. But I know the secondary man who I know you're referring to. Why don't we let Aaron turn around and kick up on this one?
No, I'm not big on IndyCar myself either, but Mario Andretti, just watching him here and there. I don't catch it all the time, but I catch when there's something on like that, I watch it. But dating back to then, Mario Andretti just he was always a top 10, top 5 finisher. Just I didn't get all the stats on him, but to me it was Mario Andretti.
Yeah, you also had Mike and Suds also backing you on that one too.
Yeah, I just chose Mario because I like to say Mario, and he was actually the only person I ever heard of. But he also was the only one there was only 2 car racers who ever won a Formula One race, an IndyCar race, or the World Sports Car Championship, and a NASCAR Sprint. He also won a midget car race, and I had to put it in there just because I wanted to say midget. Midget and Mario on the same thing. I had to go there.
Yep.
What did you make your name? Because it shows up as, I thought Indy and NASCAR
was the same thing.
Yes, and that's what he did. He is pulling the ultimate Woody Page tonight. So bad.
Indy, there's a windshield like kind of over you, and then NASCAR, you're in a car.
I lost my hillbilly license a long time ago, so I don't watch that shit.
We lost Ryan.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he froze and then he got dropped.
Disappeared.
One of the other stats though is that Mario Andretti raced 4 years in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he only had 1 win. He raced in 14 races and he had 1 win, and that 1 win was actually Daytona 500. He was also one of the other drivers in the Indy 500, and NASCAR section was another Daytona 500, which is ironically saying that Daytona is the hardest race to win because it's the first race, and going in the Indy section, one of the hardest races is the Indy 500. And Mario has 52 wins. He has 4 titles and 1 Indy 500 win. And it's kind of ironic that his name's up there on the list because he's actually one of the only guys who has most wins, the second most wins, and he's only won the race 1 time. There's other guys on there that has 4 wins, 2 wins, 3 wins. It's just weird. And that's why one reason why I said I want to put a representative out on Mario Andretti. And he does also race more than just the IndyCar and the NASCAR. He also does other races too. So that was one of the reasons why I picked him also.
Well, we've got Mr. Birch has thought outside the box, which I thought was very creative. So, Mr. Birch, if you please.
Yeah, sorry about the little technical difficulties there. So I went outside the box, as George said, and I did not pick a driver. I picked an owner. And here's a list of guys that drove for this guy. Mario Andretti, Rick Mears, Bobby Unser, Al Unser, Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, Al Unser Jr., Paul Tracy, Jill DeFerrin, Sam Hornish, Helio Castroneves, Juan Pablo Montoya, just to name a few. This guy has been around in IndyCar, in Champ Car, because he left IndyCar for about 5 years. He's been around since 1963, 64. He has 18 victories at Indy as an owner, 17 Indy 500 poles, 13 open wheel championships, 200 victories overall in open wheel driving. Yes, he has a NASCAR, stable that's been driving for I don't know how many years, 30, 40 years. But I just read also that he has actually purchased the Indianapolis 500 property from the family that was there. And so I am going with Roger Penske.
Wow. I did not know about him buying.
That's actually a good turn there. I like that.
It is. Yep.
Wow.
That's a heck of a list of racers too.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
They always usually say the owners sometimes aren't the ones that get the wins. It's usually the drivers. And you obviously stated right there that it don't matter who he put in the car. He was putting in winners.
Thanks.
I like the thinking out of the box. That was pretty nice. I like that.
Lost him again.
Lost him again. I swear I'm not kicking him out.
Will you tell Terry to quit picking the
his
phone up
piece.
so you can stay on your dial up?
He came in, he said his piece, he dropped the mic, and he just.
Yeah, tried to bait with that.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Drop the mic and just leave. All right, let's try getting him back in again. And we're back. Oh, come on. There he is. We just said you did a mic drop and left. You said Penske and said, that's it. You're out.
So sorry about that. Yeah. So this guy's been around, IndyCar open wheel driving for years as an owner. Ironically, he only raced like 2 races in IndyCar. And then he said, I'm done. I suck. So this guy is synonymous with, any type of racing as an owner. To me, he is the greatest of all time for all the drivers that have driven for him and all the victories at Indy and all the victories, elsewhere. Plus him leaving IndyCar and going to Champ Series for 5 years when they had that big split between IndyCar and the Champ Series. And so, to me, I think Roger Penske is to me the most influential person in IndyCar.
Yeah, I was just looking up there about the sale of the Indy 500. I did not know that. I just
saw it today.
That is a pretty wild ordeal.
Yeah,
I did not know
it's
that.
Weird. And he's 82 years old, and he still goes to all the races, still as many as he can, and he's from Shaker Heights, Ohio.
Got to drop those Ohio things in there.
So there you go, suds.
I don't give a shit about NASCAR or Indy. No, I don't. Go ahead. That's about as good as you can get it.
Said the man who thought Indy and NASCAR was the same thing.
That's why I got. You expected me to care?
At least you're honest.
But the thing with him,
your car parts go on their car.
he puts his money right back into his teams and everything to make him
drive a
bigger
Kia.
and better. You know?
I do too.
So no, they don't.
Which is kind of ironic. Which is kind of ironic because of that. Because Kia is actually made in North America.
Yeah, they're owned by Hyundai. I know because I make paint for them.
Yeah.
You make paint for more than just one person.
All right. Before we jump in to the dynasties, see how many of our folks we've got watching here. This is where we're going to turn around and take a quick break. I am actually going to slot up a trivia question. The person who turns around and slaps it into the comment section with the correct answer outside cannot be any of our folks. Sorry,
Xavier,
guys.
get out your computer.
No.
Don't give my computer back.
Any of the immediate, nor any of the immediate family. We're going to institute another Sudbury rule here real fast. So
he just wants free clothes.
It will be the current folks who are up and online and watching, and I will pop on the share screen here. And right now, the rest of us, we will turn around and take a quick break, and let everybody hobnob at that. And we'll turn around and get this question popped up here. It does pertain to last week's show, by the way. And there you go. And we're back. Hopefully it wasn't too long for everybody. You got to keep those boys off the Xboxes, Ryan.
Shut it.
I was saying when you got kicked off, I was like, tell Terry to put the phone down so he quits getting kicked off the dial.
She's on Wi-Fi.
All right. No, Mike Johnston. It's not Mike Tyson.
That's White Mike.
Hey, that picture didn't look like his head was bashed in too much.
No, it wasn't. No, it was not. No, it was not.
That must have been after his first fight.
Yeah. or pre-fight.
Yeah.
Or pre-fight for that matter.
Original Photoshops.
Oh.
They pulled the Kardashian.
Yeah, with black and white. No, Mike, not Harry Greb either. Well,
Jack Dempsey?
like we see, we don't have anything there yet. So we'll turn around and save it and pop it on for next week. Then we'll save it for next week.
They couldn't Google that fast enough, huh?
Hey, even left a hint there too. So it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too much of a bad question. All right, let's jump into our dynasty teams.
What's the definition of a dynasty so everybody knows?
It varies.
What are we looking at?
It depends on the person how it looks at it.
Just like the goats.
That way you can squeeze in the Cleveland Browns when you have the opportunity.
I actually wait a minute.
Hold the phone. Well, go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
Out of all my dynasty teams, I do not have any Cleveland teams.
That is correct.
Wow.
So F you, Suds.
Correct.
But no, I mean it depends on how you look at it. You could have a team that maybe made the playoffs 10 straight years in a row, but never made it to the finals or anything. To me, that could be a dynasty. Everybody looks at dynasties as everybody. You have to win 4 or 5 straight championships and all that stuff. To me, you don't have to really look at the championship.
Doug is stuck again.
Yeah, you got to unmute Doug there, Georgie.
Sorry, Doug.
It was Doug. You had Doug blocked.
There is Doug. So yeah, I don't
really.
It just depends on it depends on the person and how they look at a dynasty.
Mike Johnston's already popping the steel curtain. Calm down, Mike.
F them.
Get some ice cubes, dude. Calm down.
Once again,
calm down. All the Pittsburgh.
A certain amount of years.
Slow down. All these Pittsburgh people, slow down. They're gonna be pissed.
So, hey, Suds, you got someone with hair next to you.
They only last for so many years in the Sudbury family. Then we lose it all.
Hey, grass don't grow on a busy street.
Yeah. That's right.
He's actually making them grow it so he can put it over to the side on his.
I live vicariously through them.
That's all right. I'm right in the same boat with you.
Okay.
I actually have a brother who's 9 years younger than I am, and actually I have 2 brothers. One's 16, and the other one's 9 years younger than me, and both of them are losing their hair. I had more hair. I was 30-something years old. My brother was 21. I had more hair than him. So, hey, I got lucky. I kept it as long as I did.
Right. Aaron, why don't we let you kick off the baseball dynasty setup?
I'm an Indians fan for one, but I went with the Yankees from 96 through 2001. Just a dominant team. They were a three-peat from 98 through 2000. They just seemed like they had the ultimate closer, Mariano Rivera, the Martinez brothers. I don't know. To me, that would seem like that was the top-notch dynasty team for baseball, in my opinion.
I actually also went with the Yankees. My term is actually 1921 to 1964, 43-year span, 29 World Series, 19 wins out of those 29 World Series.
Yeah, I went with. Well, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. It boggles the mind that this organization as a whole, they've got multiple dynasties. I mean,
Yeah.
there are 6 of us who picked the Yankees in a time span, one shape, form of or another here. And the stats, just seeing on how many championship games they've gone to, how many World Series they went to, win or lose, it is astronomical still that even today that, you know, it's been a little while. It's like, wow, they're kind of due soon, you know, because they had dominated it for so many years.
Everybody's starting to play their game now. You know, hey, I got the money right here. You know, especially with the broadcast deals and, you know, the merchandising, you know, you have all that new revenue that you didn't have in the 40s, you didn't have in the 60s, you know, even all the way up into the 80s, you really didn't have that revenue. You know, everybody knew New York, everybody knew Boston, everybody knew LA. They didn't know really anything else. So, of course, New York's going to have the most money. And that's why they had so many championships for so many years. They bought all their players. Hey, we got the cash right here. They could fill 40,000, 50,000 in the seats easy, no problem.
What's up, Ben? Thanks for joining in. Zolt, you got another one you want to add there?
No, I mean, I was right there with you, George, except I, you know, tried not to span that many decades.
Yeah.
I just went from 47 to 64. So Yankees.
You and I were in the same range. I went from 49 to 64.
Yep. In mine, it was over 18 seasons. They had a record of 1,748 wins and 1,000 even losses. So that's a winning percentage of 636. Out of those 18 seasons, they made the World Series 15 times and won 10 of them. I picked that time span because you kind of saw the end of Joe DiMaggio, Johnny Mize, Phil Rizzuto, and you saw players come in like Whitey Ford, Yogi Berra, and Mickey Mantle. And it just, I mean, you want to talk about reloading. That's all they did constantly during that time frame.
Yeah, Dave, I had the same time frame, a little bit different. I think I missed maybe 2 or 3 years from yours. But the other thing too, during that time span, they're the only team in Major League Baseball history too to rattle off 5 straight World Series. During that time
49 to 50, 49 to 53.
Yep.
And then they had a down season in 54 where only 75 wins, and they went back 4 more times, got knocked out in the ALCS in 59, and went back 5 more times.
I think we have a consensus that they're the greatest. The Yankees are the greatest of all time.
I want to say the Yankees from 1901. Actually, when did they steal Babe Ruth from Boston? Whenever that happened until today.
1908.
Yeah. This is like almost guaranteed GOAT status with them.
Yeah.
I don't think we should just
that deal.
It really was a little odd is after 62, you know, right into 64, you know, finish up on that 64. The next little span they kicked was 76, 77, 78. Then it was another major break. And then you got 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000s, 2003, 2008, 2009. You know, the spurt's kind of dying off a little bit, but overall, that's still for a large time span in there.
Is there any one of us that has a team that we wouldn't love for that to happen to?
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I'd take a little bit of that in Michigan.
Yeah.
I still cry watching over Rajay Davis's home run in the Game 7 of World Series.
You had to bring that up.
I'm pretty sure I woke up a bunch of people in the trailer park when that happened.
Had to bring it up.
I'm sorry.
Hard Cub fan here.
And the funny part is the Cubs were my second favorite team because growing up, you can come home from school at 3:00 in the afternoon, put on WGN, and they were playing baseball already.
Yep.
And if they were home, I was probably at that game, especially in the early to mid 80s.
Yep. And Ryan Sandberg was my favorite player.
Very nice man. I know him personally.
Does anybody know though what was maybe not the number one thing, but one of the biggest things that brought the Yankees back after their long drought in the 90s?
Money.
Where did the money come from?
Steinbrenner.
Yes, Network.
But where did he get his money? Yep, exactly. The Yankees were the only team in Major League Sports at that time that had their own individual network.
Yeah,
And
and that's
came
where
from
all
Lorraine.
that money.
He was also in it with 5 other people though at the time.
It doesn't matter. It's all that money is all his. He's the one that says, "Hey, I got the most money right here. I'll pay the X amount of fines or whatever it is, the MLB. Just give me my players."
well, even at that time, like the salary cap.
There is no salary cap.
Exactly. That was why
Yeah.
back then, like the Yankees. I mean, you look at their payroll. In some cases, like I
$200
forgot what
million.
the stat was, but like 1 or 2 of their players was like the payroll of the Tampa Bay Devil
It
Rays.
was
Like when they
three
first started.
times the payroll than the Devil Rays.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I
a
saw
lot of
that.
that money,
The original Florida Marlins too.
yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of that money came from him owning shipyards in Lorraine. And
Yes.
there was actually a deal where he almost bought the Indians.
Cleveland
But-
turned him down.
Something happened, and then all of a sudden the Yankees came up and he snagged it.
Kind of scary. Mike Johnson also chimed in. New York, Boston, LA still like that with the markets. They can afford players teams like the Indians or Reds can't.
Right. Exactly. And
Because
that's where all the money is.
They're mid-market. They're major markets, of course.
Yeah.
But you can't- you
You
can't-
only have 6 major markets.
All right.
you can't
Ben,
tell me-
appreciate you catching up with us too. Ben jumped in. He's he's catching in with us too. What's up, Ben? Ryan, you've got an odd man out in this conversation.
Why do I always have odd teams?
Oh, you're
out
not the
there?
only
You
one.
know?
You're not the
Um,
only one.
It's not a team, it's an owner.
You're cool.
Yeah, so, well, the reason why I
Another
did pick this team is because they had a nut of an owner.
Cincinnati Reds.
No. Actually,
not that crazy. Not
No.
that crazy woman.
Wait a minute. I actually well, that's a different show. Anyways, I went with this team from 71 to 75. They won 5 straight division championships. They won the World Series 72, 73, and 74. In the ultimate games to clinch the division or clinch the AL championship and the World Series in 72 and 73, they went 4-0. They had Hall of Famers like Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter, Raleigh Fingers. Some other guys on their team was Vida Blue, Bert Camparanis, and Sal Bando, who he was not a unsung, he wasn't that known of a player, but in 71 he finished second in MVP voting. 73 he finished fourth. 74 he finished third. I went with the Oakland A's from 71 to 75. And the only reason why I went with them was because they had a nut case of an owner in Charlie Finley. And that guy was just a nut all over the damn place. Didn't matter if he was in Kansas City or Oakland. He was a nut.
And it's hard to disagree with him being a nut, that's for sure. But during that particular time, the Cincinnati Reds actually won in 1970, 1972, 1975, and 1976.
No, from 72, 73, and 74, the A's won the World Series.
I must have Googled it wrong because I got World Series 1970, 72, huh? Maybe they played it and didn't win.
That might have been. But yeah, the A's, that's where Reggie Jackson started. That's where, Raleigh Fingers was probably one of the first closers in Major League Baseball history. He was a hell of a starter too. It wasn't like he was almost like Dennis Eckersley. It was a hell of a starter, and then they moved him. They needed some late inning relief pitchers when he wasn't starting, and they put him in, and he was doing so well. They said, "Well, screw it, just stay back there in the bullpen, and just come in at the end of the game." So I went with the A's.
All right, Mike, you're the other odd man out.
Oh, see, I was about to say, if someone agreed with me on this one, it was going to be kind of weird. I was kind of like what Ryan was doing, but I changed it up. I went from 91 basically to 2005. I guess you could say 2010 if you really wanted to go that far. This team was basically really hard to beat in a division, and it was just one of the best things to watch is because you rarely ever get to see it, and it was a team that didn't really get to buy their players. They went from titles from 95 to 14 seasons in a row. going on to taking titles and having the most winning franchise there was there back when there was. But this team was really hard to win with when they get that far. On those 14 years that span, they've only had one World Series, but they did have 4 World Series appearances, and they were also known as almost the Buffalo Bills of baseball.
No, because they actually won.
That's what I'm saying. I said they were almost like the Buffalo Bills, making it to so many consecutive worlds. They went there in '91. They went to the World Series. '92 they went to the World Series. They lost.
Which 92 was, I know who you're going with. That was one of the best World Series ever.
Yes.
Too.
And this coach that for this organization has 2,149 wins, 1,709 losses. His win-loss percentage is 557. I mean, the Atlanta Braves were a hard team to beat in the NL East. I mean,
yeah. As soon as you started talking, I knew where you're going.
Steve Avery, Chipper Jones. I mean, they were almost known as one of the deadliest pitching lineups in the playoffs.
Oh, the big three.
Yeah. And one of the funniest things about it is back-to-back years, 91 and 92, they went 7 games in the championship, in the NL championship, beating the Pittsburgh Pirates. Back-to-back years.
Now that's the Buffalo Bills of baseball, was the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And they lost the 93 NLCS championship game. You know, I mean, it's just amazing. Like I said, you know, like what Ryan was saying, some of these players just being mentioned and what they had. And it wasn't like, hey, we're a great team, we've got money, come play for us, just because Ted Turner earned them in '66 from there on out. And some of you don't know who Ted Turner is. He's also the person who owns the TNT channel.
And he bought WCW.
And everything else.
And he bought WCW back in the day.
Yes, he did.
He was also another guy who had money, but he didn't just buy his players.
No, he stole them from the Tigers.
Yeah.
And the Cubs.
Or the Cubs. I was going to say the Cubs too, Doug.
Yeah, thanks, Maddox.
John Smoltz, Chipper Jones being one of the best hitters in the history. You know, being the youngest pitchers with Tom Gavlin, Steve Avery, John Smoltz. You know, it was really hard to beat that unless you were in the World Series. It was really hard to beat that, guys. You know, and that's one reason why I picked them up. And it was not just because their name was changed 10 times, because where they first started out in Boston. You know, in case you guys
Boston
don't know
Braves
history. Known as the Boston Red Stockings back in 1876 to 82. And then they went to the Boston Beaniers. So, I mean, some of the names on some of these dynasties kind of crack me up because, you know, and where they moved from. But the Braves back in, you know, moved from Milwaukee in 65 in Milwaukee, moved down to Atlanta Braves. And Ted Turner took them over in 66 down there. And then from 1966 to 2020, they've had 4,433 wins, 4,171 losses, 21 playoff appearances, 5 pennants, 1 World Series. You know, so I mean that's just a nice franchise to have. You know, basically being starting as one franchise we have, and like we all said, some of the best pitchers were actually on that roster.
Yeah, it makes me sick.
And to throw a little Cleveland tidbit out there, the team that the Indians beat in the 1948 World Series was the Boston Braves.
Doug, gonna throw it at you to turn around and launch the soccer. We'll leave it to the professional there.
I want Stud's team first. Woohoo! Hey, it took me this long to get a middle finger.
There's your answer. That's your answer to the soccer team. I'd rather pull out a tooth than do the soccer.
George,
as soon as you start with this shit, I'm going to take a break. I'll come back in 10 minutes. I don't give a flying fuck about soccer. Never have.
Wait a minute, your sisters played soccer.
I was about to go there. That was the last time I watched a soccer game. My sisters are all American soccer players, and they played for 2 championships. And as soon as they left the field, I never watched another game. And I have no interest.
That's about as far as Sons of Soccer goes.
Yep.
All right, Doug.
Hall of Famer, Katie. MVP, Sarah. Bam. See you.
I've been on this show for 7 weeks, and I finally got a middle finger from Suds.
I'll be the first last time.
He called you number 1, right? You're number 1?
Go ahead, Doug. I'll let you. There's 3 of us who are all on this one. Go ahead, Doug.
I went with the 1980s for soccer, 1986 to 2013 Manchester United, with 39 titles during that span. 3-time league and FA Cup doubles champs in 93, 95, and 98. 2-time European double champs. 1-time league and EFL Cup double champs. 1-time continental treble champs. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I'm not, a big soccer guy. I mean, we'll let that for the experts, but just by looking up stats, I had to go with that particular era right there.
Yeah. Like I said, I was back in the same horse right there. There wasn't, it's a toss up between the 2 that are noted here that that the majority went with, and Ryan, the odd man out again. We're gonna kick it right over to you, sir, and fill us in on this. I've never even heard of them.
I went with the powerhouse country of Norway in soccer. I picked a team from 1988 to 2004. They won 18 league titles, 6 Norwegian Cups.
Andrew's smiling like he knows, but he doesn't know.
Norway doesn't play soccer.
Oh.
Is this downhill skiing? Is that what you're talking about?
Curling. They won one. Now I know I'm going to butcher this name, but one Super Linian Cup, and Andrew, you might want to fill me in on this one. One Inter Toto Cup. Have you heard of that? Jesus, man, I'm like,
yeah, I know you stumped him. I'm
all right.
Impressed.
Well, I got reading up on it. The Inter Toto Cup is basically teams that have won their leagues but have not qualified for the UEFA Cup.
Champions League.
They haven't, huh?
The Champions League. UEFA Champions League.
They haven't. They couldn't qualify that, so it's like almost like the lower cup under that. They play in a stadium for almost 22,000 teams, or 23,000 people. I'm sorry. So I am going with the little-known Norwegian team called Rosenborg.
I've actually heard of Rosenborg before. I've never heard of that cup because it goes Champions League, which is like the top league. Then underneath that is they basically call it the FA Cup, which is
that's what they said now. It used to be called the Intertoto Cup. Now I think it's called the FA Cup.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
I've heard of that.
I just wanted to throw a curveball in there, and 18 league titles in almost 18 years. I mean, what the hell? You can't beat that. No,
you cannot.
I'm going with Rosenborg.
Okay, Andrew.
Can I cut off Andrew before he likes to start this?
Right up your alley.
Before
Akers, you want to go?
Yeah, I want to cut in front of you real quick because I know we all mostly agreed on some of the dynasties and all that, but I just want to throw out this honorable mention on this one.
No. You do not get to throw out the honorable mention.
Oh, yes, I do. I don't.
Yeah.
No, it should come after. It should come after just in case somebody else said.
Cleveland Crunch are not picked, all right?
I think somebody may have them, or I know George and I. It's probably the team that George and I were talking about, but that's actually not the team that I have.
Yeah, I have an honorable mention. Yeah, it's probably.
I was gonna say.
I think all of us do. We'll save that for last because
Right.
it's probably it's I don't know, maybe greater than Yankee-esque. So, but the team that I went with in a in a Ryan in a higher bracket, or I would say in a more competitive league.
Hey!
So this team was actually, I'll give the team first because it's a little bit of an old school team, but it was basically the time frame that I picked was 1955 to 1970. And I'm going to preface this by saying this is probably one of my least favorite teams in professional sports. I hate this franchise. But what they did during that time period is really unmeasurable in soccer. And it's Real Madrid. They basically created what European soccer is today during that time frame. They were the first major European team to start to what they call imports, bring over players from South America. One was, I think we may have even talked about him when we were talking about our greatest soccer players of all time, who was Angel Di, if I'm saying this, probably slaughtering it, but Angel Di Stefano from Argentina. But in that,
I think Suds brought him up.
Brought him over. But what I mean by brought him up actually was not only were they the first team to really in Europe to bring over the imports, they were also one of the first teams to actually create what was called there's different names for it, but basically it's their camp. And the name of the stadium now is called Camp Nou, but essentially what it was a camp for young players. Your major Europeans today, Messi, Ronaldo, like the best of the best players in the world, when they're 10, 12, 13 years old, they basically go to these camps, and it's basically like a school. Think of freaking like Hogwarts, like throw out a Harry Potter reference there. But basically these kids go from their country. They're the top level talent in the world, and they go to these camps. And Real Madrid during that time period was the first team to actually create that camp. You want to talk numbers? In that time period, they had 11 what I would call like league titles. So La Liga is the major league in Spain. They had 11 La Liga titles. They had 5 straight European titles. So that's basically what the Champions League is now, which is the highest, basically like the highest league in non-international soccer. 5 straight in a row, and also over that time period they won an extra one, so 6 European titles in that time period. So you think about from a dominant perspective, not only winning their own league, but also going within all of Europe and taking on the Europe, the English, taking on the Germans, taking on really any other league during that time period. That team just blew everyone away. And I mean, they really revolutionized the way soccer was played and really how teams were built, which teams still use that model today.
It's interesting you bring up that camp because one of our son's friends that lived down the street, actually he's 9 or 10, I think he's 10 years old. He actually got invited to that last fall to that camp, and it was down there for 3 weeks to participate in that camp. So I understand what you're saying. They were one of the first ones to revolution. We always talk about with golf revolutionizing swings and that everything. They were the first ones to revolutionize a lot of the changes in European soccer.
Yep.
Why don't you pop that cherry on the honorable mention, because I know it's just killing.
All right. So the honorable mention, Akers, I'm not sure if this is who you were going to reference as well, but 1979 to 2012, North Carolina women's soccer team. 21 NCAA tournament championships. 9 consecutive from 1986 to 1994. You hear people talk about UCLA's basketball team. You hear people talk about UConn's women's team. These women won 9 national titles in a row. And over that time period, they also had 15 consecutive league ACC championship titles. So from 1989 to 2003, they won every single year. Absolutely insane. But I think the most impressive stat, and Dave, I don't know if you had shot this over, George, if you and I were talking about this. I think you might have had a little bit of a different stat. Maybe it was a little bit longer time period, but the one that I had was over that time period, they had a 90% win rate. They went 704 and 78. You don't get more dominant than that.
With that record of 101 straight wins.
Yes. Yep.
That was, I'm sitting there going, that's a long damn time to be winning and not lose a game. That's impressive.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that was one coach the entire time.
Yep. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
101 victories in a row.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they think North Carolina, I mean, obviously, and rightly so, they think men's basketball, but the soccer team really, I mean, even from a men's perspective, like North Carolina's women's soccer team, there's been just countless numbers of U.S. national team players that played there, that went to college there. It's just been, it is women's soccer, like, period. There's no other team that, I mean, obviously, even comes close.
No, that's what I was going to say.
Uh-oh.
Oh, see?
It's not who, now I'm curious. Who was your honorable mention?
My honorable mention was, we all talk about being in the big game, something that means something to your country when you want to win the game. The team has been there 6 times since 1996. They were there in 96, 2004, 2008, and 2012. And I'm talking about the Olympic sport in soccer in the World Cup of the Olympic Games, gold medalist U.S. women's soccer, defeating China, Japan, and Brazil. Yes, George, go ahead, shake your little head.
But that's not what we were talking about. That's not the qualifications.
Hey, no. You said dynasty.
Right. We said it was pro league. We established what it was supposed to cover, not the Olympics. Otherwise, you could have brought up Brazil if you wanted to.
You know what I kind of miss is the Major League Indoor Soccer. I used to, the Cleveland Crunch used to be and the Cleveland Force used to be really, really popular around here, and they had good teams. I mean, they won a couple times in a row. The Indoor Soccer League. I kind of wish they would bring that back a little bit too.
Yeah, I think there was the NISL and I think the NSSL.
MISL. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
The funny part is, here you go. I got the. Hold on.
Detroit had one too.
Let's see.
Yeah, they had like the Detroit Rockers, I think, were one of the teams.
There it is. My Cleveland Crunch pennant.
Nice.
So yeah, I wish.
Nice. Yeah, Petty looks real good.
Thank you. It was the funny part with the Force was it was right in the 80s where they would have someone dressed up as Darth Vader come out with a Force Cleveland Force jersey on and walk around all the the visiting team's players and just piss them off and everything. So but it was fun. I mean, it was fun. It was fast action soccer too. So it wasn't like it was like kind of like now where they just pass it back and forth and until they get something. You had to push it back and forth really fast to get something going. So I think that's why it caught on really, really a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. Suds now knows everything he ever will want to know about soccer, so I think he's.
I'm sorry. What?
I think he got a boner off of it.
Are we done yet?
Yeah.
Wow. Doug, you are the odd man out in our next topic for basketball. We're going to let you kick it off because everybody else jumped on this same bandwagon. So you happen to be the odd man out this time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I went with the 1956 to 1968 Boston Celtics. Over 13 years, they won 11 titles, including 8 in a row from 58 to 65. You can't get better than that. They posted a 705 regular season mark throughout those 13 years. That, to me, is pure dominance. When we talk about dynasty teams and how dominant, teams got to be, that, to me, speaks it right there.
He's the odd man out.
Yes, he is.
I picked him.
No,
I picked the Celtics.
No, he's talking the Lakers.
He said the Celtics.
I said the Celtics.
That's
Celtics.
Not who you popped in.
Man, someone mute George.
That's not who you sent over to me.
I was going to say, I'm like, that's who I sent you. I was like, wait a minute.
Is there anybody who didn't pick the Celtics? Raise your hand. Yeah, George, everybody picked the Celtics, sir.
12 finals, 11 championships.
I mean, if you were saying the Lakers, what year was it the Lakers?
Doug, you flipped on me in the last minute. because you had
Oh.
Somebody's
you gotta
muted
unmute
down on the
yourself.
left hand. Somebody's muted, George.
Oh, right.
FU Suds is. Yeah, Ryan.
No,
Ryan's
Ryan
muted.
muted himself.
Okay, I'm good.
There you go.
I might have been looking
Yeah,
at the name Lakers and I accidentally typed that by mistake. My apologies.
They had a big
Yeah,
bunch of battles
I was
back
gonna
at that
say,
time with
Because I
Bird.
got
He was
I
reading
got
off the
Celtics.
stats, and I'm like, hold on, that's not anybody
I know
but the.
that.
I thought
Yeah,
there was
because I'm
another
not-
team during that time period that.
Right,
the Bill Russell area.
right. That was pure dominance.
Oh,
the Russell
the
era.
goat.
11 or
mean?
13
The goat?
titles.
Doug,
Yeah.
you put down here 1956, 57, 68, 69 Lakers. LA.
That
Those are
time
all the years
that
they lost to the Celtics.
Awesome. Yeah,
You put Lakers.
that was a typo. That was a typo.
He was drinking decaf coffee, not regular coffee when he said
I'm
that.
like-
Hey, he was drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm like, Doug, see, I'm not freaking out.
I mean, can we actually say that was an error that they did once again didn't buy their players?
well,
The name Celtics, everybody knew the name because of, it's a major market team. Just like the name Yankees, just like you knew at the time you knew the name Knicks. You knew the New York teams, you knew the Boston teams, you knew the LA teams. That was pretty much it. It wasn't so much a matter of money in basketball because back then you didn't make a lot, but it was more the name. Oh, I go there, I know I'm going to win a title or I'm going to be in contention of the title.
Most of those guys were also drafted. They
I was gonna
stayed on
say-
that. They stayed on that team their entire career. They
did
never
it-
moved.
Like
NBA
I was saying, like another team that didn't buy players.
Yeah, he
NBA
did.
teams didn't start buying players until the 2000s. Everybody stayed there basically, and until about the 2000s.
Or traded. Yeah.
Or traded. Other than that, no, they stayed on their team or they signed somewhere for a very low contract. It wasn't like they were bought by all the owners. That's so I think that's that 2000s is when everything the shit hit the fan on that one.
And Bill Russell, he just dominated the whole league. He did it for his entire career. Hell, he ended up being the head coach the last two championships. They said he was so dominant. They said, "Screw it, we don't even need a head coach. Hey, Bill, run the team."
Well, didn't you pick him as your GOAT last year?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because he was the man.
See, I listen to you every once in a while.
I know.
Or just once in a while.
From 1947 to 2019, only 49 times the Celtics have not been in the NBA championship game. That's damn impressive.
They're the most dominant NBA franchise in history.
Yeah.
It'll never be repeated.
Whether win or lose in that going to the NBA finals that many times. I mean, not making it 49 times, and it's just because of more recent, but still.
It'll never be repeated.
No.
It'll never happen again because with the free agency and players being able to go from team to team with the big money, that will never happen again.
I think that's part of it. I think the salary cap's part of it. I think the parity in the league and having so many more teams is part of it as well. I mean, I don't think that string of championships in professional sports will ever be matched with the way sports are now. So, I mean, just not dominant time period.
The weakest teams right now in 5, maybe 7 years are going to be one of the stronger teams. And look at the Golden State Warriors. They were middle of the pack, bottom of the pack for the longest time. Now all of a sudden they're like the next best thing.
Yeah. I mean, look at Cleveland. I mean,
I agree.
You draft LeBron.
Yeah.
Draft LeBron and get the next 4 number 1 overall picks.
Yeah. Now,
that's another thing I don't like about basketball is we don't actually get to see them pick out the lottery ball, so who gets picked first.
You assuming?
I joked around about it with a buddy of mine who I'm not really in basketball. I watch the sport because I think sometimes it is kind of played out a little bit. But jokingly around when LeBron was going to be drafted in 2003, I said they're going to give it to Cleveland, and he's like, no, it gets picked out of a machine. I said, we don't ever get to see the last 5 balls. I mean, obviously that right there tells you they showed the picks when the balls came out, who the lottery balls, but then they stopped and closed the doors. And I'm like, that right there tells you that they're picking where people go. It's just like when Kobe Bryant retired. Who got the first pick?
Michael Johnston's sitting there going, his dynasty, of course.
No,
He's a young buck. He's a Cavs guy.
That's the thing I don't like about it. It's another one that's kind of set up in a certain similar way. When LeBron left Cleveland,
4 out of the next 5 picks, number ones.
And they picked Kyrie. You know, and that's why I said sometimes I'm wondering if these picks are literally just set up to try to get these dynasties to get built back up.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time. It wouldn't be the first time that the NBA has been caught cheating. I mean, they put it off on the referee, but you tell me you couldn't tell that some of these referees were literally cheating? I said there.
Look at the draft where Jordan wasn't number 1 pick. Larry Bird wasn't the number 1 pick. So it's not like it's, you know, the owners are just as stupid as everybody else.
Well, the number 1 pick at that point in time happened to be Magic Johnson over Larry Bird.
No, it was a year later.
Was Larry Bird?
Yes.
Was
Larry Bird
later?
Was a year later than Magic Johnson. Yeah, he was 6th overall. That's what I had. I had Larry as my.
I thought they came out at the same time because they played the championship game together.
No. He Magic Johnson. I think I don't know what Magic Johnson, but looking it up, Larry Bird was number 6. I think I think Klay Thompson's father was the number 1 pick overall in that draft with Larry Bird. But yeah, I mean, look at Jordan. I mean, just look at Jordan. He was what, 4th or 5th in that draft instead of being number 1.
Yeah.
Akers, I agree with Akers on that being fixed because you look, Anthony Davis just left the New Orleans Pelicans and look who they got. They got the number 1 pick in Zion Williamson.
At least we know with the NFL, they go by record, so you can tell who the hell is the worst.
I would say what changed.
Those tanking on purpose.
You know, that's what I said. A lot of teams are tanking on purpose, and I want to know if it hurts their club. Obviously, it does hurt their club, but it gives them the first pick. Why don't they take the last 2 teams who have the lowest records in the NFL, make them play one game where they have to win to get the first pick?
That's the Sudbury rule. That's the Sudbury rule.
I was just going to say that.
I mean,
George was ahead of his time.
Like, how much sense would that kind of make? Like, these teams are tanking, and you get, I forget what year it was that there were 2 teams, and it came down to all they do was lose the game, and they get the first pick and turn around, they won, but the other team turned around and won too, and they're like, oh, it just stayed the same. You know, it's like.
That was the Detroit Lions and Cleveland Browns both went 0-16. We're really good at tanking.
We're professionals at that.
You know, these teams where they're not so strong in these rankings, yes, they need those players because it's not fair. Yeah, you may get the most balls in the lottery to try to get you the first pick.
He said balls.
How many teams have been in last place and not get the lottery pick? You know.
Well, I mean that's one of the reasons why the NHL and the NBA they went to that model of draft because they had the same teams tanking year over year just to stack up their first overall picks, and it was creating a lot of super teams basically a long time ago. So, I mean, I think it does dissuade those teams from tanking. Like,
could you imagine if we put a salary cap on basketball, how much these teams would be so much different?
Well, they do. The basketball does have a salary cap.
It doesn't have a salary cap. It's got a luxury cap.
Yeah.
There's a big difference because when you have a team that has the money, like the Lakers and like Boston and like Miami, even though Miami normally doesn't do this, but the other ones do, because they have so much money coming in and that they are able to pay the luxury tax. They're paying more money for players in order to bring them in because they can financially do it. They all have about the same amount of money, but because the Lakers and the Celtics and New York and them can go over the salary cap by paying that luxury tax, it's a 2-to-1. So every dollar you pay, you have to pay basically $1 extra in a luxury tax. So a team like the Lakers who bought LeBron, let's say he's $100 million, and maybe that's $50 million over the salary cap, they have to pay an additional $50 million in order to have LeBron James.
Dan Gilbert was always paying in a luxury tax. He said he'll pay anything to get a chance.
Just so he get the ring, which I completely understand. That situation is a story for them to actually do something because of what it was. Now, I just hate the fact that like you have to stack a team. You know, like Kevin Durant left OKC just to go to Golden State. You know, everybody's like, oh, he left to make Golden State better. No, I'm pretty sure Golden State won to how many championships before KD went there?
2.
You know?
Now, did everybody pick the Celtics from the 50s and 60s?
Yes, for the first time we were all.
I didn't.
Green across the board.
Would you go?
Yes, you did.
I said
Yes,
the
you
Celtics,
did.
but I said in the 80s.
He went with Bird.
I went with Bird.
Bird, Parrish, and McHale.
Bird, Parrish, and McHale. They won 3 titles, went to 5 finals, won 3 titles. There was a nucleus. You had Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson, Bill Walton was there. Bill Fitch and Casey Jones were their coaches. The stat that got me was in 1986, they went 40-1 at home. Lost 1 game at home.
Was that the Bulls?
I don't even know who they lost to. I just saw that stat. I didn't even look it up. But then the next year they went 39-2 at home. So but to me, the reason why I picked the Lakers in the 80s is because that's when basketball was good, because you had feuds back then. You had rivalries back then. Now you don't really have rivalries. Back then, Boston hated Detroit. Boston hated, I mean, that was a great 30-30. I was going to say 30 for 30 LA on ESPN. That was a great show. Detroit hated LA. I mean, everybody hated each other when they played that because you had big rivalry. I mean, Cleveland and Chicago. I always said this: if Jordan wasn't playing for Chicago, Cleveland would have made a couple of finals because Jordan was always in the way of the Cleveland Cavs. But back then, you had rivalries, and it was so fun to watch basketball because of it. Now it's just everybody's going everywhere. Every other year, you can't follow where the hell everybody's going.
That Boston Celtics though, at that floor, that parquet floor,
yep.
that was the greatest advantage that any team had in the NBA. And there was spots where the ball you couldn't even dribble a basketball in certain spots. And Larry Bird knew every spot on the court. He knew where the ball was going to bounce, how the ball was going to bounce. Other players had no clue. Sometimes that ball literally you hit the floor and the ball wouldn't even come back up.
And they had
I was going to say, Tim Giles just said because only the Celtics could put up with that floor and no air conditioning.
I was going to say no air. I said that. I didn't even see his comment. I said they never had any air conditioning.
Don't forget the Spurs pulled that on LeBron.
No, that was Mavericks.
Was it the Mavericks?
Yeah, it was the Mavericks.
Okay, either way, it was in Texas. They turned off the air conditioning inside the locker rooms.
Yep. No, I was going to say they didn't have any air conditioner in Boston Garden at all.
Didn't they turn out? Didn't the air conditioning go down for the stadium that year with against LeBron? Or did the whole place go down, or was it just in the?
No, it was the whole place.
Yeah. It was like 90-something degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the fingerprints on that air conditioner. Where's Mark Cuban?
Oh, jeez.
But the other reason why I picked the 80s Celtics is if you look at all those players that played on there, a lot of them became really, really good coaches or GMs. Danny Ainge. I was shocked that Rick Carlisle actually played for them.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Bird was a good GM. McHale was a good coach. All these guys came from.
McHale was a good coach.
Yeah, he was a decent coach down in Houston.
Eek.
I mean, he wasn't that good in Minnesota, but he went down to Houston. But Chris Ford, who played for Celtics, became a Celtics coach, and he wasn't that bad. So all these guys weren't. They were.
I was with you, and so you said McHale.
They were intelligent basketball players. They just didn't go out there and play, just to play. They knew what the hell they were doing before you even stepped on the floor with them.
They lacked if you actually watch them, they had lacked a lot of physical talent. They had the brains.
Yeah.
They lacked a lot of physical.
That's why
McHale and Parrish couldn't jump off the floor if they saved their lives. Mm-hmm. Larry Bird was the greatest shooter of all time, but if you ever saw him jump a foot off the floor, it was a miracle.
That's why you rarely see any video of him dunking.
Yeah.
Any highlights of him dunking because he didn't want. Well, he didn't want to because he knew he can shoot the hell out of the ball.
The greatest shot I ever saw, and they actually made this illegal.
Oh, behind the
was
backboard.
The behind the backboard
Yep.
shot.
Yep.
And they're like, "Why did you do that?" Because I can.
Yeah. Yep.
All
He
right,
was
to answer your
falling
question,
He was falling out of bounds. He actually ran out of bounds. He jumped in the air. He threw the ball up over the backboard and dropped it without the net didn't even move. It went straight through. It was probably the greatest shot in the history of the NBA.
One of the purest shooters ever.
Yep. Salt Lake, Indiana.
1986 is
And
what you said.
also a
Pick from French Lick.
With the
He's a
stat that you're
consistent
talking
guest
about,
star on Cheers too, by the way.
if you said they had to lose to one team at home, who do you think it was?
Nice Cheers reference.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Don't care, Mike.
To lose a
Ryan,
I don't care, Mike. I don't
you're
care.
picking your nose.
I don't care.
the
They
New York
actually
Knicks.
lost 2 home games, but it wasn't really at home. It was actually in a neutral at Hartford Court.
I was just gonna say Hartford. Aha.
It
I
was
didn't hear
against
you
the
at first. I
Washington
would have told
Bullets.
you Hartford.
It was against the Washington Bullets. But a home game that same month, December 12th, was against the Los Angeles Lakers. And that is the only loss they actually had at home.
Yep.
Okay.
But it's really funny that you said that because their record that year was 59-23.
Yeah.
And 40 of those wins were at home and only 19 on the road. That's horrible.
Well, that's how much it shows you back then. It was hard to win on a road.
But they lost that year. They lost the finals to the Lakers.
Guys, we've got our longtime boxing friend has also just jumped into the room. What's up, Ricky? How you doing?
Oh, Ricky.
What's
How you
happening, sir? Glad you could join us. We're just coming up into our home stretch here with hockey and football. And Aaron, I'm going to let you lead off this one.
Actually, I'm gonna be jumping off. I gotta get up for work at 3 a.m.
Which is why I was hoping to hurry up and get to you because
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. It was a blast. Hopefully, you know, what's that?
You know, hockey or football?
I'm more of a basketball guy of any sport, though. I play it, and I'm 40, and I still run men's leagues and still play it. So I'm more of a basketball guy. Second would probably be football.
Nice. Well, sir, again, you guys can catch Aaron's show. Go ahead and set yourself up, sir, for the plugs. Go ahead.
Socks and Sneakers will be on June 6th from 4 to 6 at Redline Radio there, LLC. I'm going to be on there with my best friend, Jake, and he came up with the idea of Socks and Sneakers. He's a Red Sox fan. I'm a sneaker junkie. I love different kinds of sneakers, Jordans, LeBrons, and everything. So he came up with the idea, and we're going to walk you through the life of sports as his little motto for our talk show. So we're gonna plug away and have a little fun with sports. And if there's not a whole lot of sports going on, we'll just kind of figure something out that'll attract people to the site.
Kind of like what we're doing.
I was going to say, right now with no sports, it's tough to come up with a lot of things. Like I said, as you can clearly see, we're being very creative right now.
Hey, that's all we can do with everything that's been going on. So
yeah. Well, thanks again, Aaron, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And like I said, Socks and Sneakers on Saturdays starting June 6th at 4 p.m. And that's an excellent afternoon ordeal, especially Mr. Burrich. You'd be out at the campground. You could just turn around and kick that on the Redline Radio LLC. Stream that bad boy.
You guys.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. It was a blast and getting to know each and every one of you. And George has me on again. I'll be more than happy to come back on and have some talk with you guys.
Salud.
Absolutely.
Go Beans.
Thank you
Take
for coming.
care.
Hey, thank you. You guys
All right,
have a good night.
You too. All right.
Sucks that he works.
3 o'clock in the morning. Ouch.
Right.
I had to go back off of work again.
Did you?
Denise got exposed.
Oh.
So she's we get the test results tomorrow.
Oh, we'll keep our fingers crossed, man, and say a few prayers on that aspect because that's not cool.
Ooh.
And the guy came in and it was through the plexiglass and through a hole, so chances are real unlikely that she caught anything, but who knows?
Well, still, we'll keep our fingers
Thank
crossed on that. Mike, you and Aaron both actually had the same squad. Why don't you go ahead and kick off with the hockey there?
Okay, I was about to say, I was like, did you say sport? Because I didn't know when you were talking about hockey.
Yeah.
Actually, I kicked it off with one of the biggest dynasties that actually ran a long time playoff run, about 20 years straight, and it finally fell off. Shoes were named after them. The Red Wings. I mean, it's just an miraculous. It was great watching a lot of them play. I did get to see a lot of the cups, a lot of the Stanley Cups they won. I just had it. I'm trying to scroll through it again. How many cups I think it was 23 or 11 Stanley Cups they won. Out of
You know what
those,
amazed me on this, real quick, as you're looking that up, is that the Detroit guys did not pick the Detroit Red Wings.
What they do? Go Canada?
I was a little
Actually.
surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little surprised. I was like, wait a minute. The Ohio guys took the Wings and the Detroit guys?
You don't want to be accused of being homer.
If the Wings would have
We
won,
only need one homer.
I mean,
We only need one homer on this thing. Yeah, put your hand up.
Championships. I mean, it's really hard to say. That's why I said it was. There are a couple of better. I mean, I guess you could say better franchises if you really wanted to, but the Detroit Red Wings back in the '90s and all that were just teams that you had to actually beat in the playoffs. I mean, 11 Stanley Cups pretty much put that mark on there.
yeah, I think the thing with that within that time period, I mean, what you had said, they have 11 total overall, but within that time period, I'm gonna say they only won 4 cups. I would take 1 nowadays,
right?
But for me, I mean, the biggest thing was they lost 2 Stanley Cups, 2 finals to Pittsburgh and to the Devils during that time period too, which to me eliminated them out of that. I mean, they did
Devil with Gretzky.
No, the Devils were 95, 96,
Okay.
and then the Pittsburgh was a freaking crybabies team.
And let's not skip.
So that had been early 2000.
It was 2009.
Not skip where they got bumped off from the number 8 team whooping them too.
Well, I think that I'm trying to remember. That happened once. I know. I think it was Edmonton. That was the year. I think it might have happened twice. I think Anaheim.
Right, Anaheim did
that
it.
happened, and I think Edmonton. The year Edmonton went to the finals, I think they might have knocked them off too. I mean, they had some seasons that were just. I think it was the year they lost the cup to New Jersey. Points wise, they had the most wins in a season ever. I mean, you talk about the Hall of Famers that played on those teams. At one year, I think they had 11 or 12 Hall of Famers, including Scotty Bowman. On the team, on one team. So I mean, yeah, I think if you think about dynasties, I think they're up there, but I think they fell short on some cups there. I think they could have at least pulled out maybe another 2 or 3. If they would have done that, then 100%, I think, you could throw them up there in the conversation.
Tim Giles says the 2002 team had the great selection of talent. Brett Hall, Brendan Shanahan, Steve Yzerman, Igor Larionov. They were incredible. And he says the Devils more like the New Jersey Trappers.
The thing that gets me is Scotty Bowman. It never gets mentioned as one of the best coaches in NHL history.
I think he's always. I don't know about ever.
I never heard. I mean, I going from Detroit, Pittsburgh, and
it was Montreal, Pittsburgh,
right,
and Detroit.
His players play for him, and they like him, and they'll do anything for him. So I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't get his due, but a lot of times they kind of overlook him because. You know why? He's not one of these fiery coaches who goes out there and sis boom ba everybody. He just goes out there, coaches, and that's it.
Well, he's the Bill Belichick of the NHL.
Yeah.
No,
he's like the
Scotty Bowman more than Bill Belichick.
But yeah, I mean, that time period for the Wings was, 25 straight years of making the playoffs. I mean, right there. You definitely can throw them up there in the top dynasties.
Yeah.
Zolt, we're going to let you kick off the one that 4 of us are backing.
All right. So yeah, the non-Detroit dynasty of the Montreal Canadiens from 1970 to 1979. So 9 seasons, 7 first place finishes, 6 Stanley Cups. Year 76, 77 alone had a record of 60, 18, and 12. And then to really cap it off, from the 75, 76 season through the 77, 78 season, so 3 seasons, 177 wins, 29 losses, 34 ties. It's just insane.
Yeah, I had some ginormous numbers because when I did the home, when we're doing the homework for this stuff, and we're jokingly, we're joking around saying, we're doing homework on it, and just to let folks know, we really are like taking the time out to seriously investigate this stuff. We're going through a lot of not just going to one website or 2 websites. We're checking out several different sources and everything. With the Montreal Canadiens,
You didn't have to.
Yeah.
You literally, it's from the infancy. I mean,
1915.
Nope, I'm gonna one up you there. 1893 with the Montreal Hockey Club. You're looking at 126 years and a win percentage of 727. As far as the official Stanley Cups, you're looking at 34 appearances, 24 wins, 9 losses, and 1, stop me if you've heard this movie before, in 1919, no cup was awarded due to a flu epidemic. Kind of strange. I couldn't understand why that would have happened. Huh.
Why did you do that?
I thought you were going to say a syphilis breakout, but
No. So again, it's the Detroit Red Wings stand second to that all time. But I mean,
what franchise?
I could not believe that the Montreal Canadiens literally are kind of like Boston Celtics. They are the dominant force in NHL.
Yeah, the one stats I got on here is from 1917 to 2020. They've got 23 Stanley Cups, 25 championships. So that means they've had 25 Stanley Cup appearances from 1977 to 2020. That was the other one that actually beats out Detroit. That's what I was saying. Well, you said 18 something.
1893. Yep. Like I said, when you do the homework, serious digging.
Homework is.
I did some serious digging.
Yeah, apparently, you must have pulled the damn golden shovel out to go that far.
Oh yeah, I did. Hey, pulled out the boxing guy who
they kept stats back that far. Were they on stone? Did you get the stats?
I didn't know the internet went back that far.
Yeah.
When you turn your screen off, Ryan, it doesn't say on the Facebook page. It doesn't say I'm not a homer. It just kicks you off. I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, who's I'm not a homer? I'm like looking through the screen. I'm like, who are we missing?
All right, Shrods or Ryan? Who wants it? You both got it. Who wants it?
Go ahead, Shrods. You can start off.
All right, I'll start it off. The one thing, I'm just going to throw something out there, though, some shade at Montreal. The one thing I've always had an issue with Montreal's total Stanley Cup count is when you go back prior to like the 1960s when they introduced the current model of the NHL draft. Back in the day, Montreal literally had, and you're talking about back in the 1800s, Montreal literally had the pick of the litter. So think about having the very first overall pick every single year for decades. That's what Montreal did. And the second pick and the third pick, because back then they didn't have a draft. So Montreal stacked all these cups early on because they could basically just stack their team with the best players. Talk about like the drafts, those all-time great drafts. If you could take the number 1, the number 2, the number 3 players and put them all on the same team, hell yeah, you should be winning 23 cups. I'm actually surprised they didn't win more. The other thing to throw out there too is there was only six players on their team, or I'm sorry, 6 teams in the league for the majority. You know, you think about the original 6 for a very long time period, so not a lot of competition, I would say. And so I would say the same thing about Detroit, same thing about Montreal, same thing about Toronto, though. So not just Montreal in general. But I mean, I can't argue with that Montreal team. But the team that Ryan and I picked, and the reason why I chose them is they hold a record that's not just NHL, but is all major professional North American sports.
Number one.
And you talk about dynasties. The really what defines a dynasty is winning championships. So this team from 1979 to 1984, actually technically 85, if you want to look at it from that perspective.
Yep.
They won 4 straight Stanley Cups. They went to 5 finals, and the one that they were eliminated was when basically Gretzky took over the throne. But the record that they hold, they won 19 consecutive playoff series, not games, series. Yep. And that is the number 1 ranking in all of not just hockey, but all of North American sports. Yep. And when you look at the names that were on that team, I mean, it's just absolutely insane. I mean, Brian Trottier, Mike Bossy, Dennis Potvin, Billy Smith, Al Arbor, Bill Torrey. I mean, from an NHL perspective, that team was just absolutely stacked, and they won. I mean, it took the greatest player in the history of the NHL to basically eliminate them.
Right.
So.
Right.
Brian, I don't know if you had any other stats.
The one thing, Butch Goring was the if you look into it, he was the one that they traded for, I think, with the Los Angeles Kings, I want to say. They traded 2 of their guys that have been, fan favorites for years at the Islanders, and they traded them for that. The 2 stats of that really got me was what Andrew just said, was the 19 consecutive series. I mean, that's unheard of. You don't hear about that. It's, even with the Warriors now, you don't hear, in basketball, you don't hear about that. But the other stat that got me was, if you look at goal scoring, Mike Bossy was their goal scorer. He had 51, 68, 64, 60, 51, 58 goals in that 6-year span. Other than that, the highest anybody ever scored, second, was 38 goals in a season, or 40 goals in a season, something like that. So they did not score that many goals. Billy Smith, I want to say 3 out of 5 years had a under 3, goals against average. Winning four championships in a row is just, it's tough to do. Winning 19 consecutive series to win those 4 championships in a row is unbelievable.
Well, and if they would have got that 20th, that would have been 5 cups in a row.
Exactly.
I mean, that was
right.
That was the series with against Gretzky. So I mean, to me, I mean, yeah, Montreal, I think, from a longevity perspective, maybe had a little bit more success. But when you think about a dynasty and over not just 1 or 2 or 3, but I mean, really almost a 5-year period. And it taking the greatest player in the history of that sport, maybe potentially all sports, from a records, from a statistics perspective, with Gretzky having to eliminate him, like, to me, that's the ultimate dynasty right there.
And those guys, all those guys that Andrew mentioned, they played for them for 15 years. They all stayed. They started in the mid, 75, 76. They were building. And 79, boom, they just went balls to the wall, and they just went 4 in a row.
And Tim Giles also is noting here, the 1980s, in 86 specifically, they were 1 bad pass from Steve Smith away from winning 5 straight Stanley Cups themselves, which is also up there on that list.
Yeah, the only other, was that everyone? Because I had one honorable mention, which would have been
that is everybody.
It would have been the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, even though the Islanders did really well, you think about basically from 85 to 90. If it wasn't for I think it was Calgary Flames that had snuck basically that 1 Stanley Cup. I mean, they could have strung together another 5 or 6 Stanley Cups there. So that was just another unbelievable team as well.
And that's the only Stanley Cup that the Calgary Flames have won is 86.
Yep.
All righty. Now the gloves are off now. Suds is about. I hope he took his medication because I'm gonna just. Doug and Zolt are backing each other up here. Where do?
If you motherfuckers pick
Hang
the
on.
Cleveland Browns.
Hold on. Where did Akers go? What happened to Akers?
He's scared.
No.
Akers.
Akers dropped off.
Oh, Akers.
Goodbye.
Holly must have pulled the internet. All right. Anyways, doesn't affect us that much. Doug and Zolt, who wants it? Who wants it? Who wants it back?
I'll lead it off. That's fine. Cleveland, 1946 to 1969.
Thank you.
23 seasons. They had a record of 227, 75, and 10. Winning percentage is 744. In those 23 seasons, made the playoffs 17 times, 13 title games, which they had record 8-5 in those title games. Yes, 4 of those title games were the AAFC.
Which don't count because they're not part of the NFL.
No,
right out the door.
No. You shut the hell up, son.
This is football dynasty.
We covered this already last week. We brought this up already. It is posted and noted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Therefore, the records do actually count.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Suds?
But here, even the 4 AAFC championships got them in the NFL. And what did they do when they got to the NFL?
They won the
NFL championship.
They beat the other 5 teams that were in it.
Right.
Yeah, they went 10-2, 11-1, 8-4, 11-1, 9-3, 9-2, and they won 3 championships in that small time frame right there.
You talk about them. They went to 10 straight championship games.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what league they were in. They went to 10 straight championship leagues, and they won 7.
And they did it under some coach I never remember.
The father of coaching. But I digress. And the funny part is, I didn't even pick them.
Yeah, neither did I. And
like if the Detroit Pistons played against the Holly Broncos, they'd win a championship every.
Oh, shut up. Sorry, that is not a professional basketball team. Sorry about your damn luck.
What about the Flint Tropics?
Oh.
There you go. That's who the Cleveland Browns were playing against.
I mean, at one point,
I'm with you. I got your
Cleveland
back.
Cleveland was actually good at one point.
Yes, they were.
Yes.
Hard to believe.
Just imagine if Jim Brown would have and Art Modell would have played nice, and he would have stayed for a couple more years.
Yeah, that would have been.
But they have actually won a Super Bowl?
They could have. They beat the Colts. That '64 team. They beat the Colts where Johnny Unitas was coming in, and everybody said they weren't going to beat them, and they think that it was 27-0 was the score of the game. And the funny part is, I don't even think Jim Brown scored a touchdown in that game. Just like Walter Payton didn't score a touchdown in the '86 Super Bowl,
Yeah,
whatever Super Bowl.
Well, technically, yes, he did. I think William Perry helped him over the goal line.
They handed it to William Perry.
Oh, they handed it to him?
Yeah. And
Because I remember Walter was like right there with him.
No, Walter Payton did not score a touchdown in that Super Bowl. Same thing with Jim Brown. He did not score a touchdown in that '64 championship game. So just imagine if him and Art Modell would have just been nice to each other. He would have stayed probably another 5-6 years. They would have been right there in the first couple Super Bowls.
I was gonna say, finally let me unmute Suds.
We
booted.
Mike Ditka said his greatest disappointment ever was not getting Walter Payton a touchdown in that Super Bowl. Yep. He did not. They were on the 1-yard line, and they let William Perry go in instead of giving the ball to Walter Payton 4 straight times. It was it was one of the great heartbreaking things of Walter Payton's entire career was never getting a Super Bowl touchdown.
Right.
That's came back in the autobiography.
Same thing with Jim Brown in that 64 game. It was, I think they all scored on passes and 2 field goals or something like that.
All right, Shrods. You got some backup here with Suds, Mike, and Aaron on this next one.
Please do some common sense into these people.
There's only one dynasty in football, and that is the Evil Empire. Period. End of story. No discussion. 32 actual football teams in the conference, actual league parity, actual competition.
You only still played 18 teams.
2001 to
2032.
But it doesn't matter. That means that there's that many more teams that take top talent and top players that you got to play against.
Jacksonville's not top talent.
Yeah, I was going to say Detroit doesn't take that.
Really?
Hey,
the Miami Dolphins, not top talent. New York Jets, not top talent.
Did the
Buffalo
Patriots
Bills.
not play the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC Championship game a few years
Bengals
ago?
not top 10.
So you're telling me
To borrow Suds' phrase, blind chicken finds a kernel of corn every once in a while.
hey, I'm pretty sure. Has Jacksonville been to the AFC Championship game more than Cleveland over the last 20 years?
But they have.
I used to like you, Andrew.
So,
but I'll give you a pass.
here's some stats for you. Over that 19-year period, they made the playoffs 17 of the 19 seasons. One of the seasons they didn't make it, the greatest quarterback of all time was out. We'll give them a pass there. The two years they didn't make it, they also had winning records. So it's not like they completely tanked those years. The one year they had 10 wins and they still didn't make the playoffs, which is absolutely insane. They've been to the Super Bowl 9 times over that period. They won the Super Bowl 6 times. They're the only team ever to go 16-0 during the regular season and also have an 18-0 season.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
That's his box. Still won't let me unmute him.
I think he was unmuted, I think.
No, I wasn't.
I wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't.
All right.
Got it. Greatest coach of all time for me, I mean, is Bill Belichick. And on top of all of that, they also.
And where did he get his start? Yeah.
Cleveland.
Was it Cleveland?
His first head
Cleveland.
coaching job was
First
in
head
Cleveland.
coach. But where did he coach before that?
Was Cleveland.
He coached in Detroit.
Ourselves.
He actually coached in Detroit. I think he was like a defensive coach there. So, but over that time period, they've also won 17 AFC East titles too. So, I mean, you talk about a dynasty, you talk about just utter domination, not only of your division, but of your conference and really of an entire professional sports league. It's the Patriots. I mean, yeah, should they and probably could they have won maybe a few more Super Bowls? Probably. I think Belichick cost them at least one, benching some of the players. But I mean, when you're Bill Belichick, you have the right to do that.
They also have the payoff of Russell Wilson because Marshawn Lynch did not get the ball on the 1 yard line.
Well, I mean,
you
win some, you lose some.
you turn around and paid off Russell. You know, we got to add that one in too.
No, not arguing with that. So, I mean, you win some, you lose some. There's no guarantee that Lynch would have carried it in either. I mean, their defensive line was pretty good at that point. So we'll never know. We could argue that till we're blue in the face.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, that answer.
But I mean, there's really nothing else to say. I mean, you got Tom Brady, probably the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, you got Belichick. Those defenses that they've put together since 2001 have just been lights out. I mean, just Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer on that team as well. And I mean, a lot of homegrown talent, a lot of players they drafted. I mean, they're not going out and buying players. I mean, look at the wide receiver position. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. I mean,
no, they did buy Randy Moss. Sorry, they did pay for Moss.
One player, and look what happened when they got him.
Yeah,
they've also
return
played
on investment.
They've also played in the weakest division in the last.
That doesn't have anything to do with playoffs.
Oh, yes, it does. Because if you're playing against the weakest division, you're winning your division the whole time. You're going to make the playoffs.
What happens when they make the playoffs?
Which is how the Cleveland Browns went to 10 straight title. See what we did there? Yeah.
So what you're saying is they played in the
can't
the
turn
Cleveland
around-
Browns played in the weakest division.
Shut up. We just said that. Anyways, I'm trumping it because mine is the Green Bay Packers. 137, 46, and 8 between 29 and 67. 13 titles, 6 titles in 16 years, which is better than what the New England Patriots did with 6 titles in 20 years. And oh yeah, the Packers did not lose any of those Super Bowls. In fact, the first losing Super Bowl was to the Broncos in 98. So unfortunately, I have to say that the Green Bay Packers are technically the biggest dynasty as far as the NFL is concerned. And that is, since you don't want to count the other league suds, the Packers are all straight NFL. And so your New England Patriots are just the current dynasty, not the ultimate dynasty. But again,
I'll take New England number 2. Cleveland at 32.
As Ryan says, but I digress.
That's right.
And that's up to Mr. Ryan, by the way, because he is the odd man out. One of 2 odd men out. I'm sorry, I was an odd man out too.
Hey, by the way, Detroit has 4 championships pre AFL NFL merger.
Yep.
So do those count, suds?
No.
Yeah, just thought I asked.
Mute. Yes, they count.
So I went. We talked about this earlier, how people look at dynasties. I looked at this team, and yes, they did not win a championship. But this team went to the playoffs 1988, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 95, 96, 98, 99. They were basically the precursor to the New England Patriots, where they won the AFC East 98, 99, 90, 91, 93, 95. They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Yes, they didn't win any. But when you have the likes of the people on offense of Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, James Lofton, Andre Reed, and on defense you had Bruce Smith, Cornelius Bennett, Shane Conklin, and Darryl Talley. To me, this team, even though they didn't win a championship, to me, this is a dynasty because they ruled the East for 7, 8, 9 years. And like I said, to look at a dynasty is everybody's own interpretation. But when you go to, I know they didn't win a Super Bowl, but when you can go to 4 straight, we talked about the Islanders going 4 straight, Stanley Cup Finals and winning, actually 5 straight, and they won 4 of them. But it's hard in the NFL, especially how they want everybody to be even, to go to 4 straight Super Bowls. That's a pretty tall feat to do. So to me, I think my dynasty is the Buffalo Bills of those late 80s and 90s, where they just won everything in front of them, and they had a hell of a coach too. Marv Levy was one hell of a coach. So yes, Suds, I'm not going with
just missed. That's all.
What's that?
One field goal just missed. That's all.
So Suds, I'm not going with the Browns. I'm going with Buffalo Bills.
You still picked a loser.
Wow. Oh.
And Detroit went to how many Super Bowls?
Not a damn one.
Yep.
And I'm never been a Lions.
He's not a Lions fan.
I am not a Lions fan.
He's a fan of himself. Could you not tell this by now?
I don't root for. I root for the team that that do it the right way. I don't like teams to sit there and try to buy their championships. I don't
roots for the current winners. That's what he goes with.
I root with teams that I enjoy watching. Right now I do enjoy watching the Chicago Bears. You know, they're not winning anything, but I like watching that offense. But they're not necessarily going to win. But I like watching them. I like watching the Minnesota Vikings.
I'll give you the Vikings. The Vikings are a fun team to watch. Chicago, good defense, but I'm glad the Browns didn't take Trubisky. I'll tell you that right now.
But Indianapolis Colts with Andrew Luck, I liked watching him.
Yeah.
I liked how they ran things. I like watching the New England Patriots. I do enjoy watching them. You know, just how he outsmarts everybody.
What about the Montreal Alouettes?
I don't even know who the hell that is.
That would be the CFL. That would be the CFL.
Is that a soccer team?
Or the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
The Toronto Argonauts, actually. Doug Flutie's team.
Mm-hmm.
I know who the Argonauts are. Doug Flutie was actually one of my favorite people to watch the football. He was a little man with a big chip on his shoulder, and what he did in his career is amazing.
Probably one of the biggest upsets in college football history.
Yep.
Yes.
The Boston. But
Boston College and Miami.
Even with baseball, I don't necessarily enjoy a certain team. I enjoy certain players.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to George about this before, about doing a shout out to this person. He played for U of M, and he won 88 games. He was drafted into the Major League Baseball, and he only won 88 games. He played for 10 years. That doesn't sound much, but I challenge any human being to pull off the shit he pulled. Yeah, that's Jim Abbott.
I was going to say Jim Abbott.
You know, right out of Flint. Yep. He born with one arm, wins 88 games, and by the way, throws a no-hitter.
Indians. He was Indians against. He was playing for the Yankees.
Yeah, and you got to give that man all the credit. Those are the kind of people I like. Right now, is it with the Ravens or with Seattle? That one young man who's playing with one arm.
That is Seattle. His brother plays for Seattle.
Yeah, they both play with each other, and he's sitting there. And I'll be damned. You go out there in the NFL and you're playing with one arm. That's somebody I want to watch.
Yeah,
I want to see that dude play. You know, I enjoy watching those guys. I am periodically. I am definitely a Ravens fan. I mean, with how they do things with their defense, how they go about their business. I think Jim Harbaugh is an asshole. He's head coach for U of M. John
Harbaugh.
You know, U of M. But you know what? When he was in the NFL coaching, you know, the way he ran things, the way he did things, you have to give the man credit. You know, it's just who I like to watch is people who do things the right way and do things differently. So
George, I got a question for you. We got 15 minutes to 11 o'clock, and we're almost done. I mean, what the hell are you gonna do?
I got something for discussion. I was actually surprised. Nobody brought up any college football teams unless they weren't on the docket. But
we weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I know I had brought up the honorable mention for the North Carolina women's team in soccer, but I didn't know if
I couldn't ignore that one either when I saw the soccer thing, because that's still. That is just mind blowing. It really is. I mean, you can't see anybody topping that in collegiate sports. I like you said, I don't see that going anywhere. But no,
even with Connecticut basketball,
even with UConn basketball,
yeah.
I mean, the most dominant college women's team in 100 years. See what? Didn't they go like 3 seasons without losing a game?
Yeah, but I think that was only like 79 or 80 wins in a row, somewhere around there, where the soccer is 101.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You had to go 20-some seasons in a row. That's just unbelievable.
Well, somehow Akers just like he
dried out.
He bombed out. And
I think he tried to get on with his phone.
Yeah,
he did.
He tried and he failed.
Holly snatched that too.
Give me that.
I
don't know if you guys want to discuss it now. I mean, I know we only have 12 minutes left, but one of the things that I think would be interesting too is to talk about what the NHL is doing with the rest of the season and with the playoffs. And do you guys think any other league's going to follow suit? Like, will the NBA or will I mean, potentially even like baseball? I mean, they're starting to hit July. You're getting towards, I mean, maybe not halfway, but close to halfway through the season. I mean, usually the All-Star break is in July. So
depends. Do they have to play their players? I have to pay their players. If they if they don't have a season, do they have to pay them? That'll be the difference.
There's a couple of factors in this. One, with baseball, they never started up yet, so they can start a season up and kind of finish a half-ass season, if you want to call it that. NBA, they're thinking about just kind of like what the NHL is doing. They're just dropping, the dead weight and saying, you guys can't play anymore. We're just going to go with 24 or whatever number. I know the NHL came up with 24. I don't know what the NBA is thinking. I mean, I heard, talk shows talking about it, but to me, if you're going to come back, you got to come back with everybody. Don't just come back with just a certain number of teams. I mean,
or the top, let's say 8 teams get a bye, and everybody else has to do like a round robin.
Yeah.
One time play each other, and best record moves.
Right, and the thing that I heard yesterday was Jeff Phelps, who does a radio show out of Cleveland. He brought this up. He goes, it's kind of unfair to those teams that are not going to be able to play. Say they just cut 24 teams, both leagues say 24 teams done, the other 8, whatever, they're done, they can't play the rest of the year. Those teams that have played in the playoffs, in later this summer, have a advantage going into the next season because they already have been, playing, and these other 8 teams haven't been playing at all for the last 6 months. But these guys, the other teams, have been playing for 2 months, and then they have 2 months off, and then they go right in, the training camp. They have an advantage of getting their players in better shape and game shape than the teams that haven't been playing at all. So I personally would like both leagues, the NHL and NBA, to involve every team, because that another thing is financial. How are you going to tell these other 8 teams or whatever, hey, you can't get any piece of that pie because 24?
They get a piece of the pie anyways.
But if these are uncertain
NBA
times and
profit sharing. NBA's profit sharing.
I was going to say NHL is profit sharing.
But I do agree with Ryan from your point, because Suds, from a playoff perspective, there's bonuses for teams depending on how far they go. Mm-hmm. And when you give a team an opportunity that wouldn't have made the playoffs in the first place, that gets hot. I mean, we talked about a number 8 knocking off a number 1 seed. You start to see some of these 24 seeds, 23 seeds, if they get hot because nobody else has played in the last, 3-4 months. One of those teams gets hot, that's a 20 seed and goes far. Now you are talking about, potential additional compensation.
Then they needed to play better. They needed to play better at the very beginning. This is not everybody gets a trophy.
Oh, I'm not necessarily saying it's not. They don't even get a chance to earn the trophy in the first place.
Right.
But they had a chance to be up there already.
Well, not necessarily. Nobody knew that this was going to happen. So
that's why you play every game.
Not saying it would have played any. I do agree with you from that standpoint. I'm not saying the Red Wings, who have already been eliminated from the playoffs, would have played better and actually been the 24th seed.
Right. The 7 teams not making it were Buffalo Sabres, New Jersey Devils, Anaheim Ducks, LA Kings, San Jose Sharks, Ottawa Senators, and the Red Wings.
Who had the best record of all of them?
And
probably Anaheim, maybe.
I'm moving over to there right now. Anaheim was 71-29. Buffalo was 69-30.
So 71 wins.
I'm sorry. No. Those are the
points.
Sorry, hang on. There's a game.
I That's a lot of wins.
That's kind of the other weird. That's the other weird thing. Hang on a second, because the wins and losses, I know, and I know with hockey it's points. The Sabres 68 points. They played 69 games. Carolina, the Hurricanes, and the Islanders have more points, less games played. So the Canadiens, who are only 3 points ahead of Buffalo, played 71 games. So the Sabres didn't get to play 2 more games and possibly could have outscored that. But yet they're not going to get the chance to. So they took basically everybody who was, I still don't know how they made this cutoff. I really don't. I mean, 3 out of one and 4 out of the other. I guess making it even, it's like, okay, the Blackhawks made it in. I mean, in the Western Division, there's no snowball here. The Ducks were 67 points, the highest. The Blackhawks were above the cutoff line. They have 72 points. There's no way the Ducks even played an extra game. The Kings and Sharks both played 70 like the Blackhawks did, and they had 64 and 63 points. So that's fair. The Sabres and the Devils both 68 points at 69 games.
Play each other.
Okay. And
right.
And like I said, but Montreal played 2 more games and have 3 more points than both of them. So the Sabres and the Devils don't get to play 2 more games to try to get up and beat that 71. Like
how many points can you get for a game?
2. So they would have had a chance to get 4 and
they would have had a chance to get 4 and jump ahead.
Just include everybody. That's the thing. This, it's
because
not like,
the Senators were only sitting at 62, and the Wings are, of course, at 39. There's nothing.
There's not a snowball chance.
But the thing is, it's not like it was. Say just for example, it was Detroit's fault that all the shit happened. It was no one's fault in any of these sports leagues. Just let them all play it out, and get just so because it's.
But how far are you willing to let them play out, though? That's the key.
The whole thing is
do like a 3-game series. Why not? Or one,
This is going to be the whole thing is this is going to be a round robin tournament.
Yeah,
that's how they're doing this. It's not lining up and then whoever plays out wins. They're actually doing, and they said that there is multiple cities.
I think they're looking at just two cities, or getting down, trying to weed it down to just 2 cities to play.
1 conference each.
Yes. Yep.
Which cities are those? I didn't hear what cities.
I don't think they've actually said.
There were 8 cities that I think were left on the list.
Hang on.
I know the NBA, they were thinking about going down to Orlando with Disney, and then everybody just play there the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
Vegas.
Vegas was on there. Pittsburgh.
The hub cities is Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Vegas, LA, Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver.
See, I don't think New York would be involved because of all the damn cases.
I think that's why.
Yeah.
And watch Canada won't do. I bet you Canada won't do it either.
No, because there's plus you gotta think there's. You can't travel either from Canada to the United
their
States.
Biggest issue.
That's another reason why.
Yep. That's getting Canadian players into one place. And
yep.
Well,
not just with hockey, but with basketball and baseball. But basketball too.
On.
You got,
Breaking news came across earlier today. All international players have free clearance to fly back into the U.S. to join their teams, no matter what the sport was. That came across earlier today. That's why, it was highlighted primarily with the NBA, but it went with NHL as well. And baseball.
Yeah,
well, with Canada lets you back in.
Well, that's the thing. They'll let you back in, but I believe anybody that comes in from another country have to quarantine for 14 days.
It was a no quarantine set.
But that's
really.
It is a no quarantine entrance.
Coming to U.S., not to U.S., not to Canada.
But I'm saying that's that's what surprised me a little bit was as everybody was allowed to come in, it got signed today that it was a no quarantine aspect. They can go right to their teams.
I think they're going to all that. It's all mandatory testing anyway, so they're all coming back into getting tested immediately.
Right.
So quarantine is pointless at that point.
Yeah, one of the statistics or one of the criteria for the cities that we're looking at was forgot what the word they used was, but was basically like a very good reputable medical system. So like I'm surprised Chicago was actually on the list just because of the cases they have. I mean, they have a really, really good medical system, but I know Pittsburgh, the medical system that's in that city is really, really good. So that was one of the top things that they were looking at, outside of like obviously being, having the NHL arena facilities and things like that. But they were also making sure that they had the medical teams to actually support all the testing, because one of the criteria too is going to be basically almost like daily testing for the players. So
right.
Is Michigan on the list?
No.
Yeah, but you know what? It's interesting.
Whitmore will never let anybody do nothing.
Well,
it's interesting you say. It's interesting you say Columbus, because if they have all those teams playing down there, why not take a day or two off and go down there and watch a couple games? Because we're only, from where.
I don't think the fans will be.
No fans.
Yeah.
No fans.
It'll be like the soccer. They'll pump fake noise into the broadcast, and we can all enjoy watching it.
It was kind of weird watching Raw with all those damn people like 6 feet away with the plexiglass.
They looked like they were in a fish tank.
No, they looked like Terry said, it looked like they were in a hockey game.
Did you all see the Japanese baseball game? They put sex dolls in the seats.
Oh,
yeah.
I heard about it.
Yeah. They got that team got fined. They got fined big time for that.
Not enough social distancing.
I
don't think.
Now, to me, that's a great idea, but that's just me. I'm throwing 69 up all the time, but they got fined a hell of a lot of money for that one.
You think Bobblehead's a good promotional night? Imagine that.
Hey, the funny part is, you
take
talk
the
about
fans home at night.
You bring up the Japanese teams. I actually tried to look at their dynasty for baseball teams, but I couldn't find anything on their teams. So I'm glad you brought up the sex dolls, though. Thanks, Doug.
No problem.
And with that, George.
And that's a wrap.
Hey, wait. I digress.
That's the next shirt, by the way.
I digress.
That's from that Snickers commercial. Good morning. I digress.
Yeah, but you do it so much better. But
thank you.
I digress.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, geez. All right, gents. It's been a ton of fun. Akers finally makes it back in when we're right on out the door.
We didn't miss him one bit.
Can he talk?
Really?
Oh, there you are.
We thought Holly pulled the plug on you.
No, I don't know. I literally don't know what happened. All of a sudden, the Zoom just went down on the computer. So I'm like, okay, I shut it down, tried loading it back up. It was trying to connect, doing nothing. So I was like, all right, forget it. I jumped on my phone, and then all of a sudden it won't let me speak or hear anything on my phone. I'm like, what the hell? So I literally just shut everything down, left the iPad on so I can understand what you guys were talking about, and
jumped on
the iPad, waiting for the computer to load back up. I shut it all completely down and finally let me in, and then it tells me George kicked me out.
Well, I'll tell you, George said you were given the best facts and everything when you were online with us. So
no, I really thought George kicked me out. I come back, I went upstairs real quick, and I come back down, and I sit down, and next thing you know, everything froze, and I'm like, the hell just happened?
Beats me.
I thought I was waiting for the breaker to start flipping because it's right behind this wall right here. I'm like,
I got kicked. My internet. They kicked me out 3 times on my internet, so I can't say a word.
So
there's a storm coming.
I thought it was Holly. I literally upstairs. I was like, did you literally just pull the internet off on the computer? No. Which is kind of weird because we actually have access to our Wi-Fi that you can actually cut internet off to certain portals. So like if Annabelle's being bad one day, we can actually shut the internet off everything she touches.
Oh, you
She
know
was pissed
upstairs.
at.
Yep,
She was pissed
she was
at you.
upstairs going, "Oh yeah, watch this."
Watch
Yeah,
the
right.
dishes, Mike.
Annabelle sitting up there going, "Okay, Dad, you want to do that to me?" Click.
Uh-huh.
I didn't understand what was going on. It was letting me search on the internet and all that, but it would not let me connect to Zoom.
Zoom is frozen. I've seen that.
Well,
Anybody else having my startup on my computer was awfully slow as well today.
Yeah, today, yeah.
I was fine, and then like I said, that 10-15 minutes I kept getting kicked off, but other than that, I've been fine.
that's a little bananas.
What's on store for next week?
Browns versus Steelers, I believe, because I'll be in studio with the Redline Radio LLC guys. We will actually be in studio, and Akers, I believe, and I and Ryan is a possibility. We're going to be going over there. There's a new show that will be going on called the Top 10 List. It'll be on from 6 to about 7:30, 7:45-ish. And the Browns fans have to come up with the top 10 Pittsburgh Steelers of all time. And the Pittsburgh Steelers guys have to come up with the top 10 Cleveland Browns of all time. 5 offense and 5 defense. So that should be an interesting challenge. And then once our show gets on, it will be, I believe, Browns versus Steelers talk as far as what the upcoming season may or may not hold. And at the moment, I'm trying to also solidify how to engage the rest of you gentlemen in on that. And I will try to figure out what we're going to do from there.
Alrighty.
Whether it be a conference, conferencing you in through the phone, or what the situation may entail. But I will let you guys know. But that, at least at the moment, is what is on tap. Coming straight from the Redline Radio LLC studios over there in Cleveland. And anybody else got anything?
I'm good.
I'm hoping I'm off another week of work.
Say goodnight, Suds.
Good night, Suds.
Peace.
Later, Doug. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Andrew, as always. Appreciate it. Mr. Zolt, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate the time and the work, as always. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Mr. Burrich, a pleasure as always, sir.
But I digress.
Good night, sir.
I gotta pee.